Thank you for attending our online committee hearing. So it's public hearing of the Committee on Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship, joint with the Committee on Health and Demography, Ways and Means, Urban Planning, Housing and Resettlement, and Finance. And what committee on government is this, Jingle? Is this local government or government reorganization?
Local government, sir.
Local, joint with local government. This public hearing is hereby called to order. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Senator Dito Lapid, one of the author of one of the bills we will consider, and Senator Marcos is here. Yeah, Senator Marcos is now present, also the author of, I think, one or two bills we will consider this morning.
Yes,
So thank you, Senators Lapid and Marcos, for joining me. So we definitely have a quorum for today's hearing. So now our committee secretary, Ms. Jingle Alam, will now acknowledge our resource persons.
Magandang umaga po, sir. Magandang umaga po, Senator Marcos and Senator Lapid. And I think Senator Mig, sir, darating din po, and Senator Gatchalian. For today's hearing, we have a number of guests and resource persons from different agencies. From the Department of Trade and Industry, we have Engineer Mario Gaudiano, Ms. Susan May Salonga, Assistant Secretary Noel Patrick Prudente, and Executive Director Doris Gacho, Assistant Secretary Defna Du Naga, Assistant Secretary Joan Karen Riola. We also have President Jose Capistrano, and also Assistant Director Marie Camille Castillo. From the Department of Health, we have Dr. Maria Rosario, Sylvia Uy, Ms. Jovita Raval, Dr. Ana Melisa Guerrero, Ms. Vanessa Saulog, and Ms. Joyce Pairena. We also have Engineer Ana Trinidad Rivera and Director Marilyn Pagayunan. We also have Dr. Melanie Santillan. From the Department of Finance, we have Attorney Karen Ann Yambao. From the Department of Finance, under the Securities and Exchange Commission, we have Commissioner J.D. Paul Francisco, Attorney Darwin Soto, and Attorney Algin Lacanaria. From the Department of Budget and Management, we have Ms. Sherry Magluyan and Attorney Tricia Batan. From the Office of Employment of Pilipinas, we have Ms. Ellen Joyce. From the Department of Transportation, we have Assistant Secretary Edgar Galvante. From the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, we have Assistant Secretary Avelino Tolentino. From the Association of Carriers, Equipment Lessors Incorporated, we have Mr. J. Eladio Angeles. From the Imagine Look, we have Attorney Mary Grace Santo Domingo. From the Philippine Society of Nutritionists, Dietitians, we have Mr. Jake Van Don Andal. We also have from the Department of Agriculture, we will have USEC Evelyn Lavinia, Undersecretary Ernesto Gonzalez, Assistant Secretary Christine Evangelista, Assistant Secretary Batod, and Assistant Secretary Noel Padre. That's for all now, sir. Thank you po.
Thank you, Comsec. Just let me announce some house rules, for an orderly and smooth running of the hearing. Let us mute our microphones, unless you're recognized, or if you want to be recognized, since I cannot really see all of you all at the same time, feel free to call my attention, no, by stating your name that you want to say something. And given the varied and diverse subject matters that we are going to tackle this morning, I am sure that not all of you are here for all or many of the subject matters. Maybe you're here for one subject matter. So as soon as you're finished with your business before the committee, just quietly but formally inform our committee secretary, Ma'am Jingle. Do they know your contact number, Jingle? Just inform her that you are leaving or about to leave the meeting because your business is done. And this early, accept my thanks to all of you. My thanks for attending this committee hearing and helping us understand the very different and wide-ranging subject matters that we are going to tackle this morning. Iba, ganyan po talaga. I think this is the trademark and what is interesting about the trade committee. Ma'am Aimee, very interesting. Never a boring day in the trade committee because of the subject matters that are under the jurisdiction of this committee. Dami, iba-iba. Mamaya, papasok pa tayo ng labor law.
Everything under the sun.
Everything under the sun, as long as you buy or sell and or you exchange anything, I think that's under this committee. Okay, so ganito na lang. Now, so we have listed down the following bills that we are going to hear today. I will mention them in no particular order. So we have the BPA in Child Care Articles Prohibition Act by Senator Binay, the Trans Fat-Free Philippines Act by Senator Binay, Trans Fat-Free Philippines Act by Senator Pangilinan, Drugs and Medicine Price Regulatory Board by Senator Subiri, Drugs and Medicine Price Regulatory Board by Senator Marcos, Employers Liability Protection from COVID-19 by Senator Revilla. Akala ko kay Senator Soto ito. Senator Revilla pala ito. Rental Payment and Eviction Moratorium during Disasters and Emergencies Act by Senator Revilla, Warehouse Receipts Act of 2019 by Senator Pangilinan, Heavy Equipment Registration Act by Senator Revilla, OTOP Philippines Act of 2020 by Senator Revilla. Okay, mukhang nagkamali. Mali. Yung
Sorry, sir. Yes.
Mali yung master list. Yung Employers Liability Protection from COVID-19 Act is Senator Soto,
Yes.
SP Soto. Rental Payment and Eviction Moratorium during Disasters and Emergencies Act is by Senator Lapid. Okay.
Yes.
Tama. Okay, so let's start now with the bill filed by Senator Lapid because he's, I think he's still here with us. Is Senator Lapid still online? Comsec, do you see some flashing on the screen? Nagka-flash ba yung some images? Sa screen ko nagka-flash ang iba eh. Ha?
Hindi
You're
naman
okay?
po, sir.
You're okay? Oh, sige.
Okay po.
Maybe something is wrong with my connection. In case of the worst case scenario that I get cut off, Senator Aimee, be prepared to take over. Then I will try my best to log in again. Okay, so we will start now with Senate Bill number 1525, the Rental Payment and Eviction Moratorium during Disasters and Emergencies Act, filed by Senator Lapid. So, Senator Lapid, if you want to make an opening statement, the floor is yours, sir.
Maraming salamat po. Magandang umaga po sa Committee Chairman Coco Pimentel at ang aking mga kapwa senador at mga resource person. Nagpapasalamat po ako at natalakay itong Senate Bill na 1525 na meron po akong opening statement pero isusumiti ko na lang po at i-insert ko sa record. Maraming salamat Mr. Chairman at natalakay po itong Senate Bill ko na 1525 dahil kasi ito po ay naaayon at kailangan ng ating mga kababayan. Dahil po itong pag ganitong pandemya, lalong-lalo na po pag may state of calamity, yan po siguro anuin natin dahil sa pagrenta at moratorium ng pagrenta ng ating mga kababayan na nangungupahan. At pagdating ng state of calamity, yung pong mga probinsya, city at ang mga munisipyo, pag nag-deklara po ng state of calamity, sila na po mag-uusap kung kailan magbabayaran, pero kailangan po talaga bibigyan ng kaluwagan na hindi sila mahihirapan sa pagbabayad. At hanggat merong state of calamity ang isang probinsya, isang city o munisipyo. Yun lang po at maraming salamat po sa inyo, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Lapid. At saka siguro klaruhin natin na hindi lang ito COVID, ano? Kasi ang topic na ito, kung maging batas ito, covered lahat ng disasters and emergencies. So,
Tama po.
pangmatagalan po ito. So, do we have any comments from DTI? Did you send somebody to comment on this one? And then we're talking about SB 1525. And also, sino bang nagpadala ng ano ha? We have from the Housing, Department of Human Settlements and Urban Planning and Urban Development, Philippine Retailers Association. Oh. Okay, just raise your hand. Call my attention if there are any comments. Yes, sir. Nagpa-flash kayo, sir. So, is this Housing? Identify yourself, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. This
Yes,
is
sir.
Valentino.
Okay.
I am joined by Attorney Aguila of the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Senator Pimentel, Honorable Senators Marcos and Lapid. On behalf of Secretary Del Rosario and the officers of the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, we welcome this opportunity to provide inputs to SB 1525 or the Rental Payment and Eviction Moratorium during Disasters and Emergencies Act, sponsored by the Honorable Senator Lapid. We support SB 1525 and its objective of protecting the disadvantaged sectors from further hardships by imposing a rental payment/eviction moratorium during disasters and emergencies. Mr. Chair, in fact, during the ECQ, pursuant to RA 11469, the Bayanihan Tuilas 1 Act, the department issued DO number 2020-04, which provides a grace period for those who have incurred mortgages. And similarly, the Pag-ibig Fund, through their circular numbers 433 and 438, Mr. Chair, also provided guidelines for the grant on 60 days grace period and 30-day grace period on loans affected by the ECQ, Mr. Chair. So we actually welcome this effort by the Honorable Senator Lapid to institutionalize these protective measures for our fellow men, not only during the time of pandemic, but institutionally in any nationally or locally declared disaster and/or emergency. So we appreciate that effort, Mr. Chair. However, we would like to further comment and be part of the TWG, because maybe, Mr. Chair, in addition to just covering the rental moratorium, maybe we could also consider the possibility of including loan payment moratoriums during emergencies and disasters. Furthermore, we'd also like to discuss with your legislative staff if it's possible, Mr. Chair, to set the coverage of the moratorium. For the information of the body, Mr. Chair, the DHSUD also performs the functions under the Rent Control Act. And under the Rent Control Act, we only provide protection to certain levels of rent. In this case, yung mga rents ng Mr. Chair na up to 10,000 pesos. So meaning to say, if the rents are expensive, if we're looking at the rents ranging from 10,000 up, mga 50,000 or 100,000 pesos, we no longer provide rental relief. So in this case, baka we might be looking at the moratorium, but we might need to focus it so that consistent with the explanatory note, we can focus on providing protection for our blue collar workers and for our daily wage earners, Mr. Chair. But I think those are best discussed during the TWG. Mr. Chair, we submit Honorable Senators Marcos and Lapid. Thank you.
And also present with us are Senators Win Gatchalian and Mig Subiri. So who spoke? Asek Tolentino, was that you?
Mr. Chair,
Asek-
Asek Tolentino, DHSUD, Mr. Chair.
Asek Tolentino, what is the status of the rent control law? Validity up to when?
Mr. Chair, we issued an extension so that it's valid until 2021, Mr. Chair.
By department order?
By department order, Mr. Chair.
Has that power been delegated to you? Kasi alam ko by law yan ina-extend noon eh.
Yes, Mr. Chair, under the Rent Control Act, Section 6 of the Rent Control Act says authority to continue rental regulation, and it's given to the HUDCC, the precursor agency of the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good. So that's good news to all of those covered by the Rent Control Act. And your suggestion is when we finalize the committee report on SB 1525 to also take that into consideration, maybe the spirit behind that law.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
I agree with you. Pwede rin bang i-take into account na rin namin yung Tolentino bill on the 3 gives? Have you heard of that? In
Mr. Chair,
times-
Mr. Chair, I will defer to our attorney Angelito Aguilar.
just in case you have heard of that, okay lang ba yun? Anyway, at any rate, I will instruct my staff to also consider this in relation to SB 1525. Anong ang sabi ni attorney?
Yes, we can. We can.
Echo. What's happening, Jingle? I cannot hear attorney.
Sir, on their end po yung may problem, sir.
Ako rin kasi I can see some flashing on my screen. Baka may problema din ako saan. Okay, so housing we cannot hear you, or even if we can hear your audio stream, it's feedback and echo. So anyway, please submit position papers, all of those interested in this topic. So any other ideas or comments? Senwin, moratorium on rental payments and evictions during emergencies and calamities. So okay, so I think we should now approve this for submission to the plenary after a technical working group session. If there is no objection, kasi ano naman ito, hindi lang ito COVID-19 specific, applicable to all kinds of calamities and emergencies. Okay, so thank you very much. We move on to the next topic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senlito. Thank you. Is Senator Subiri requesting the TB next or okay lang? We proceed.
Next, mga 10:30 pa daw po yata
Sige.
makapasok si Senator.
What is the bill of Senator Marcos? So we can tackle.
Ah,
Sir, similar po kay Senator Zubiri yung kay Ma'am Marcos po.
Same.
Yes.
Yeah,
1760.
but Amy is already here, so and then tama-tama, we can start now. We can start discussion on the Drugs and Medicines Price Regulatory Board. And then Senator Mig will deliver his statement when he arrives. Okay, one of the authors is here, Senator Marcos. In case, ma'am, you want to say something about your bill. Can she hear us, Jingle?
Senator Amy? Hello, ma'am?
Chairman, baka dalawang hearing yan, si Senator Amy.
Okay.
Multitasking mo yan.
Okay, so in that case, we will just proceed in the order that I have.
Senator.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Padilla, yes.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. This is Teodoro Padilla. I'm the Executive Director of the Pharmaceutical and Healthcare Association of the Philippines. And if, by your permission, Mr. Chair, if we could read our a statement on behalf of the industry.
Yes, sir. Just observe some time limit, sir. Sige.
Of course. Thank you.
Self-regulation na. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much. So good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. We thank you for the opportunity to be invited to give our position on Senate Bill numbers 309 and 1760. The Pharmaceutical and Healthcare Association of the Philippines, or PHAP, recognizes the noble intentions of the proposed measure to make healthcare more affordable. We at PHAP are committed to working with you to improve access to medicines through more sustainable approaches in this time of the pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the need for measures that will ensure uninterrupted supply of medicines in the country. At the start of this pandemic, our industry dedicated its best scientists and leveraged on new technologies to fast-track the development of safe and effective COVID-19 treatments and vaccines. Due to constant reinvestments into research and development, COVID-19 vaccines have been discovered less than a year since the global declaration of the pandemic. 2 PHAP members have also applied for and have received emergency use authorization to make COVID-19 vaccines available to Filipinos at no profit to help contain the pandemic. While working on our research pipeline, we have made tremendous efforts to ensure medicine supply risks are also mitigated. Also acting as your frontliners, our manufacturing facilities and offices have worked overtime and sought alternative sources of products and logistics arrangements, despite the strict movement of goods and medicines globally. We chartered flights, which are at least 10 times our regular transportation costs to bring needed medicines to the country. And we have also become part of the DOH Pharmaceutical Security Group to respond to urgent medicine requests. Like many Philippine industries, we are not immune, we are not gaining, and we have not recovered from the pandemic. Patients have not returned to hospitals due to widespread fears of contracting COVID-19 when they go to health facilities. This has led to the steep decline in prescribing medicines after diagnosis or for maintenance. The double-digit contraction of the pharmaceutical market, which is reaching up to negative 18%, is evidence of our struggles. With this, we earnestly ask for your help so that we too may recover. In the midst of the lockdowns in June 2020, our members were hit with mandatory price reductions despite our appeal. We are already seeing its negative effect, compounded by the impact of the pandemic. For example, some companies have withdrawn certain medicines from the Philippine market, and we have respectfully urged the Department of Health to conduct an impact assessment of this policy. With this, we respectfully ask for a timeout on mandatory price reductions, as it is our sincere desire to first focus on our collective goal of containing the pandemic. The creation of the Drug Price Regulatory Board makes drug price regulation the primary instrument of the state for improving the affordability of drugs. contrary to the effective competition policy of Republic Act 9502. As a matter of sound economic policy, the imposition of price control is retrogressive. The introduction of a price control regime on the pharmaceutical industry, especially at this time of the pandemic, may discourage investments and become a barrier to medicine access. More importantly, the use of price controls can be counterproductive, discouraging existing and future investors. Our members continue to rely on a predictable business environment to invest in the country that leads to jump-starting the economy at a time when all sectors need to be boosted. We also note that broad consultations from the different stakeholders are already in place through the Drug Pricing Advisory Council under the Department of Health. Therefore, we respectfully believe that there is no need to introduce another layer of bureaucracy when such a consultative body composed of exactly the same expert stakeholders identified in the bills already exists. There are more sustainable ways of reducing medicine prices in the country. Many of our honorable senators today, who are present today, are also authors of the Universal Health Care Act and the National Integrated Cancer Control Act. We respectfully appeal that we facilitate the provisions and tools under these laws that offer more viable and effective ways to reduce medicine prices. We appeal that we employ pooled procurement and price negotiation instead of mandatory price impositions. In countries where the Philippines is being compared to, medicine prices in these countries are low because they have a single payer system in place. Both the UHC and the Cancer Control Act have provisions that give the government leverage in driving medicine prices down. These are our preliminary comments on the bills, and we will be submitting our official position on the matter. Again, we thank you, Mr. Chair, for your kind consideration. We look forward to closely working and collaborating with you as we navigate our way together out of this pandemic. Thank you very much, and good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. You mentioned single payer. What is that for my education? Single payer system.
Yes, Mr. Chair. In countries where you have, for example, in places like Thailand, there is actually the government that procures on behalf of the population and negotiates for everybody, and that's exactly why the volumes that they put together, the negotiation strategies, that this help actually drive the medicine prices down because there is a commitment to volume and a negotiated price.
Canada? Is Canada an
Well,
example?
Canada is also another example, Mr. Chair. No?
So, what is the basic economic principle behind this? The economies of scale?
Yes, that's partly, Mr. Chair. You have economies of scale. So you have volumes that are decided and agreed upon, and then you also put that on the table when the single payer, which is the government, negotiates with the industry.
So, i-apply ko sa current plan for the vaccine. So, when each local government is empowered to buy its own vaccine from different dealers, the national government does the same thing, the different national agencies do the same thing. Is that contrary now to the principle being pursued by the single payer system, which has proven to be one way of lowering down the cost of the item being purchased? What is your comment, Dr. Padilla?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Although I'm not a doctor, no, I'm a director, sir. Yes. So actually, there is a in the current situation, of course, COVID. Ideally there should be one group or one body that is discussing with the industry. Now, on the part of the individual companies, they've already signified that they are prepared to offer the products at no cost, no? At no cost, at a no profit scheme, particularly because this is an unusual circumstance, no? The pandemic. So, the creation of what we call the Drug Price Board is actually going to be beyond, or not just on COVID-19. I think that's a separate matter altogether, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you. But the principle could have been applied. Pero siguro because of the emergency, the difficult situation, there's some kind of desperation and emergency. Anyway,
Yes.
I think Senator Marcos is now with us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
Ma'am, you're one of the you're the author of one of the bills on the drug and
That's
medicine
correct.
price. Sige, if you have a statement, ma'am.
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to highlight certain distinctions between my bill and Senator Subiri. May dinagdag po ako na dapat mandated a minimum of 15% generic. Kasi alam natin pinapalusutan tayo ng iba't ibang mga LGU, ng DOH, dapat generic sana. May 15% man lamang. I also increased the minimum fine to 200,000 from 50,000 na alam naman natin pinagtatawanan lang ng big pharma. Also, dinagdag ko that the regulatory board should have the power to require the production of books, records, documents, bills of lading, accounts, etc. Para ma-conclude kung ano talaga yung tamang presyo. Kasi pag dineklara nila yun na yun, wala na tayong basehan o ebidensya para kalkalin na tama yung profit margins. I also asked that the Secretariat be established to assist the board. And finally, there is a trust fund of 500 million pesos. Medyo suntok sa buwan to, but this is an advocacy that we've maintained for a long time. And together with the Senate President Pro Tempore Recto, during Train 1, naisingit po natin yung pagtatanggal ng VAT sa iba't ibang gamot sa 2025, including the advocacy also of our own chairman, Coco Pimentel, na idagdag yung in addition to the comorbidities of diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, dinagdag rin natin yung mental illness. Tamang-tama pre-COVID yun. Ngayon na COVID, ang taas-taas ng suicide rates, depression rates, swak na swak po. So this is an ongoing advocacy to bring down what are some of the highest prices in medicines here in our region. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Padilla mentioned about the present system and then that the industry is already happy with the present system. So the filing of the bills showed that some people are not happy with the present system. So can the DOH tell us what the present system is all about, so we can see what the weaknesses of the present system, what we are trying to remedy? Who in the DOH, please?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I'm Dr. Melissa Guerrero from the Department of Health, representing the Pharmaceutical Division. So we are currently acting as the implementing office of Republic Act number 9502, which is being amended through these bills. Let me just highlight for the position paper that we submitted. I'm not going to read the entire paper, but some amendments that we wish to see in the RA 9502. We agree, we fully support that there is a dedicated price regulatory board. Right now, how we are doing it is the Secretary of Health constitutes an expert committee. So there's a drug price advisory committee, but they don't have much authority. So the authority still rests with the President by virtue of the Republic Act 9502. So it is only through an executive order that prices of medicines can be regulated in this country. I agree with Mr. Ted Padilla that there are various measures that can be done by the government, but regulation is not, if we do pull procurement or price negotiation for drugs that we procure in the government or we subsidize in the government, that doesn't mean we can do price regulation. For example, in Canada, which was mentioned by Mr. Ted Padilla, there is a board, so that's the Patented Medicines Price Review Board, which regulates all patented medicines upon entry into the Canadian market. But that also doesn't, the Canadian government also pays for medicines that are through the government insurance system. So it doesn't mean that we do price negotiation or pool procurement, then we cannot do price regulation. All countries have some form of price regulation. What we're seeking is just a dedicated body, regardless of political climate, who can really focus on regulating prices, because what we see now, so we have passed the Executive Order 104, adding to the initial list of 5 drugs that were whose prices were controlled during the time of President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo. But over the years, we have seen some prices of drugs which really have exorbitant prices. For example, po yung mga cancer medicines that you see now. So a lot of the senators also refer patients to the Department of Health, but even with the Medicines Access Program or the MAIP, some of them we cannot really subsidize. So these are the things that we really need to put regulation on. We don't intend to really kill the industry with this bill. It is just stemming the increase in prices. And we have worked with the industry. They have been transparent in the Executive Order 104, and we will still work with them, with the Drug Price Regulatory Board, hoping that there can really be a balance between the pricing and access. So some of the things that we wish to see in the amendment are the following. So apart from the creation of the Price Regulatory Board, which should have quasi-judicial powers, because right now we don't have that, is to work in coordination with the Philippine Competition Commission so that anti-competitive behavior such as entry barriers of generic or interbrand competition and restriction in the distribution channels and consumer choices are addressed. On the maximum retail prices, there should be a mandatory price reduction of innovator pharmaceutical products upon first entry of its generic counterpart, because what we see even after patent expiry, some medicines still continue to increase in prices, even though they have the patents have expired. We also want to propose that the allowable price increases of the medicines should not exceed national inflation rates or the consumer price index. Also, once a drug is under the maximum drug retail price, we propose that they are not subjected anymore to the special discounts such as the senior citizens discount and the PW discounts. So because the discounts have really distorted the pricing of medicines for all consumers. For price transparency, we are just espousing what was supported by all member states in the signing of a recent World Health Assembly resolution on price transparency. The prices of drugs should really be made transparent by governments. So we would want to require pharmaceutical companies to submit price data at the registration level, so at the point of registration of the FDA, so that we don't have a hard time collecting price information from everywhere.
Yes, if I may.
Yes.
That's the information that I had na under my section 3, merong ganon. You can actually get the price data for the documentation instead of just being burdened.
It's not really easy, Madam Senator. That's why we're proposing at the registration level it be made available to the government.
Okay, Dr. Guerrero.
Tanong sa DOH.
Yes, Madam Senator.
Sige, Senator Marcos will ask a question to Dr. Guerrero, and then our majority leader is already here. We'll give him time for his statement. Yes.
Quick question lang, no? Itatanong ko lang, yung provision ng parallel importation, ano sa tingin ninyo yon? There's some controversy and confusion in the interpretation of whether our WTO obligations, particularly yung TRIPS agreement, allow said parallel importation. Pero palagay ko kinakailangan na yon, especially from India, as we know, it's the major manufacturer of the world. So, what are your thoughts? We've not had very good experiences with parallel importation through DTI. Ano sa tingin ninyo? Parallel importation of generic drugs, will that help us or will that confuse the issue?
Those provisions, the TRIPS flexibilities are already ingrained in the law. So they are the right, especially of developing countries, to have access to even the patented drugs. I think PITC Pharma is here because we have experience before during the time of Secretary Romualdez when we did parallel importation of one antihypertensive drug. That was the only instance. Perhaps the PITC Pharma can share that. Yeah.
Secretary Mar Rojas at the time
Yes.
also attended from India.
Yes, Madam Senator, I'm confirming that it was under the leadership of then Senator Mar Rojas.
Yeah.
Can I call po PITC Pharma to share that experience of parallel importation?
Yes.
Ma'am, can you explain first the concept? What is parallel importation?
That means importing from another country like India a similar branded drug. So it's brand to brand. To gain lower priced medicines, to gain access to lower priced medicines.
But that is an authorized brand also. You're buying
Yes.
from India, authorized din yon. So,
Yes.
walang fake na ano dito or unauthorized or misbranded items being imported. Okay.
No, sir. It's brand to brand.
Bypass the profit margins of the importers, the traders, and the agents. It's a direct importation from one country to the other. So dapat magmura talaga yung presyo.
Government,
Kaya nga lang,
ma'am.
minsan, nagkakaproblema.
Government does the importation. That's why PITC.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Okay, so we will call the PITC Pharma after we hear from the majority leader because
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to apologize to the majority leader. I was told to call this 10:30, sir. Sorry na.
No. My apologies. I'm the one late. Senator Coco, I'm the one late. I'm sorry. I just had an interview with the DWIZ.
We know how busy you are. So this is one of your this is your bill, sir. So take it away.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. My dear chairman and kababayan from Cagayan de Oro. First of all, good morning to our dear chairperson, Senator Coco Pimentel, our senator from the Republic of Ilocania, Senator Ivy Marcos, and of course, Senator Wing Gatchalian, and to the stakeholders that are here from the DOH, from the other government agencies listening in. Even my good friend, Ted Padilla is here with us. We are both now a white hair. We're now both sharing the white hair look. But mine is the COVID look because that's what happens when you get COVID. But if I'm allowed, Mr. Chairman, I'll just give a short opening statement, one page. Once again, good morning. I filed Senate Bill number 309, which seeks to amend the Quality Affordable Medicines Act, which will create the Drug Price Regulatory Board to reduce the prices of drugs in the country. The creation of this agency was in my proposal when I first filed the bill, which later on became Republic Act 9502 or the Quality Affordable Medicines Act. Pero nawala po ito sa final version, unfortunately. Our direct experiences show how medicines are generally out of reach of ordinary citizens. Nung ako po ay naging chairperson ng Committee on Trade and Commerce, nagkaroon po kami ng hearing ng Joint Congressional Oversight Committee on Quality Affordable Medicines at lumabas po ang sa ating hearing na ang Pilipinas ay isa pa rin sa mga may pinakamahal na gamot sa buong mundo. We live in extraordinary times at ngayon nga pong pandemya ay dami pong nawala ng trabaho sa ating mga kababayan. Some of our kababayans actually forgo checkups and hospital visits dahil natatakot nga sila na matamaan ng COVID. And not only because of COVID, but because they cannot really afford to do so anymore. That is why it is very timely that we can take this bill up now. Hindi naman pwedeng skip na lang natin ang pagpunta sa ating mga doktor dahil sa panahon ngayon ay tunay nga namang bawal magkasakit. Kailangan tayong umaksyon if we want to make our medicines more affordable, and we shall regulate prices in addition to aggressive government importation, pooling of purchases of small drugstores to avail of discounts, and stocking rural health centers with low-cost drugs are some of the solutions that we are looking at, Mr. Chairman. We should also look at the opportunity to buy low-cost drugs from other countries. Titiyakin natin na ma-update ang expanded list of drugs sa ilalim ng Maximum Drug Retail Price or MRDP program, such as medicines for cancer, end-stage renal disease, biologics for psoriasis and lupus, vaccines for pneumonia and flu, hypertension, diabetes, arthritis, asthma, and COPD, as to mention a few. Filipinos, Mr. Chairman, and my dear colleagues, have a right to responsible and accessible, affordable health care, which drugs and medicines are a part. We understand
Ngayon pa ako
and support how the business of medicine and
Sino
pharmaceuticals
nga yung author?
make scientific breakthroughs possible and delivers life-saving drugs to billions of people all over the world. But we must keep business humane, especially with regards to health. So I look forward, Mr. Chairman, to a good discussion on this measure and hopefully a passage of a measure that can really help bring down the prices of drugs. Mr. Chair, may I also just ask some of our resource persons on what strides have been by national government? I'm sorry I came in late, so I was not really able to hear the explanation of the DOH. I believe the DOH has already pushed for a price list through an executive order. Was it an executive order or department order? May we just ask them once again, Mr. Chairman? I hope you don't mind if I can get that clarificatory answer from the DOH. In the absence of a board, I know in the absence of a board, but under the law, the DOH is given the power and authority to come up with the price list, right? The recommended retail price list. Ano na po nangyari po dyan, ma'am, from the DOH, if I may ask, Mr. Chairperson?
Dr. Guerrero?
Thank you.
You're the one, no? You're the one, yes.
Thank you, Chair. So let me have a clarification po. There was already an executive order signed by President Duterte around February last year. So this covered around 80 drugs, including drugs for cancer. Some are drugs for end-stage renal disease, hypertension, diabetes, mostly medications for chronic diseases, which really cost a lot. Right now, there are still 35 more drugs that are already submitted to the Office of the President. So hopefully it will be signed very soon. So we initially submitted a list of 120 drugs, and hopefully we complete the regulation by this year.
Doktora, Mr. Chairperson, Doktora, yung drugs na listahan na binigay po sa executive order, has it drastically gone down when you put up the price list? Have they followed, the manufacturers followed the recommended retail price?
So far, based on our monitoring, there has been compliance by most of the chain drugstores. There are some violators, but we continually submit the list of violators to the Food and Drug Administration for appropriate sanctions. But mostly they are compliant, sir.
So how many percent do you see the decrease on the prices of these particular drugs, the 80 drugs that you had mentioned? Are you using the list of prices that are around the global prices in other countries? Is that your basis for coming up with the price list?
Yes, sir. We reference prices from other countries like ASEAN. There are also some high-income countries there which are sources of these drugs.
So ASEAN, I think it's ASEAN, it's Thailand. I think that is the leader, when it comes to the affordable drugs. Thailand as well as India for the Asian region. Is that correct, Doctora?
Most of our drugs come from India, right? Yes, most of our generics come from India. But in terms of affordability, I could say that Vietnam has lower prices than the Philippines.
How do you feel? Yes, Doctora, go ahead, please. Yeah, I was just going to ask Doctora, what is your position on the creation of a board? This was actually originally in the Affordable Medicines Act, and it was removed, unfortunately. Eventually it was removed. But what is the position of the DOH on the creation of this board once again?
We fully support the move to create a dedicated price regulatory board, sir, with the authority. Because right now it's difficult to regulate prices with so many layers. So there's a committee, and then it goes to the secretary, and then it is up to the president to sign an executive order before we issue a price regulation. In other countries, there are dedicated boards or committees for that.
Could you give us an example of the countries?
Canada, India. I could submit a additional list, sir, but those are the countries where there is established price regulation. So Canada has the Patented Medicines Price Review Board.
Okay, thank you very much, Laura. Thank you very much, Chairman. I'll just listen into the other questions. Maybe we can ask of course, the stakeholders on their position, particularly on this measure. Thank you, Chairman.
Can we go to the PITC Pharma, or is it DTI VP Cortez of the Philippine Pharma Procurement Incorporated?
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Chair, just to update the
Yeah.
majority leader, I just wanted to explain that. Sorry, is that okay, Coco?
Sige, continue. About the parallel ba yan? Sige.
Yeah. No, my sense kasi was that we have not exploited the different possibilities for bringing in cheaper medicine. To my mind, that's why we were talking about it. One of the ways is to do parallel importations, which Indonesia, Nepal, and many other countries are doing on a large scale through the government. The other thing is the exploitation of the compulsory licensing provision under TRIPS. Hindi rin natin ginagamit gano eh. Doon sa WTO, ando naman tayo sa listahan. The third thing is what the majority leader already mentioned, recommending to the president the suspension of VAT and other taxes for essential drugs. So maraming aggressive interventions that could be done, and I'm thinking that perhaps we can explore all these possibilities. We've done parallel importation to a certain degree, pero ang konti lang, one drug lang under Secretary Romualdez, under Secretary Mar Rojas. So, eto siguro yung mga areas na kung meron tayong regulatory board, maybe we can be far more aggressive with these initiatives.
Yes, Madam, Mr. Chairman, and Madam Senator, we actually placed already under CREATE. All of us collectively under CREATE were together in removing taxes on certain drugs. So nadagdagan po yung VAT-free and tax-free or taxes with particularly important drugs for chronic use.
That's right. Miski dun sa
That's
train
one step already. Sa train 1 and then dinagdagan natin sa CREATE. That's true. We started with train 1 and then we added with CREATE. So that's at least initiative coming from the part of the Senate kasi wala po sa House version yan eh. That was in the Senate version through the efforts of Senator Ralph Recto to make it a bit more affordable.
Yes.
Yes.
In the future, I believe that there are several other customs duties, other retail and other friction costs that could actually be removed also in the future. Pero like the majority leader said, nag-initiative na talaga yung Senate 2 beses.
Tanong ko lang, Mr. Chairman, dun sa parallel importation kay Senator Amy, would you mean to say that when you say parallel organization, same product that's being sold in the Philippines, we import from another country which is lower price? Is that correct? Is it possible to do so though? I mean, for example, if you buy a product that is, let's say, Pfizer here, which is 2 or 3 times more expensive, but like 2 or 3 times cheaper in India, would Pfizer allow us to import the Indian Pfizer product to the Philippines? It's a question that I'd like to throw to the body if they'll allow that.
Yes,
or you just have to buy generic.
Yeah. Leader Subiri, that's what we were talking about with DOH Melissa Guerrero kanina. Kasi there are some conflicting interpretations about our WTO obligations, but the government does indeed import directly from overseas.
Maybe we can ask
Let's hear from
agencies.
Our next resource person can possibly explain to us parallel importation, TRIPS, WTO, as well as past experience. Hopefully, So is this now VP Cortez of the Philippine Pharma Procurement Incorporated? Educate us, sir. Educate us.
Yes, good morning, sir. Good morning, honorable senators. I'd like to thank all of you for allowing us to be part of this discussion. First of all, I'd like to clarify, 3 years ago, we changed our name, company name from PITC Pharma Incorporated into Philippine Pharma Procurement Incorporated. The main reason for that change is to avoid confusion. But we remain to be a subsidiary of Philippine International Trading Corporation, and our company is co-owned by National Development Company. Okay, regarding the parallel drug importation, we started it in 2000, where the mechanics is such that the very expensive medicines, molecules here by the multinational brands, we try to source it from India, and the idea is to retail it at half the price of the price that is being retailed here. But the idea is we have to accredit privately owned pharmacies or boutiques to be able to carry both. What happens now is that, for example, big drugstores, chain drugstores used to participate. They carry both the multinational brands available in the country, and they carry our parallel import. A very good example po is Ponstan, for example. At the time, Ponstan was being retailed at 20 pesos per capsule. That is the Philippine marketed brand of Pfizer. We brought in the same Ponstan by Pfizer of India, and we sell at 9 pesos to 10 pesos. So we've gone into importing a total of about 100 molecules, and we are able to supply our Butika ng Bayan with these brands, and they retail it at half the price of the locally available multinational brands. Okay, what good it resulted to is that the patients were given the power to choose. If they have enough money, they will choose the locally branded multinational brands. If their money is a little bit short, they can choose the parallel import. Because at the time, in 2000, we observed that many of our Filipino patients are so brand conscious. What the doctors tell them to buy, whatever is in the prescription, they follow it to the letter, even if it means they will have to own something of value to them. Nagbenta ng kalawaw para lang makabili ng gamot na pagkamahal-mahal. When the parallel import brands were brought in, they now have the ability to drink the same brand medicine at the half the price. That the Butika ng Bayan has the idea of the private pharmacies being supplied by the state. But of course, in 2008, when the maximum drug retail price has been implemented, or the cheaper medicine law has been implemented, we tried to test it further. If, for example, one brand has been cut because of the maximum drug retail price has been cut into half, if it is still possible for us to go to India, to Pakistan, or Thailand, and bring in the same brand that has been subjected to the maximum drug retail price, the question is, can we still further cut the cost of the same brand? It's already very difficult. And at the time we decided to discontinue the Butika ng Bayan operation, we thought that more than 95% of the molecules available in the country have already expired patent. And we saw that many of the important molecules already have generic equivalent. So we discontinued it. But Your Honors, if you look at the Republic Act 9502, we have 3 mandates there. One is to do full procurement. 2 is to participate in providing cost containment measures. And 3 is we are still allowed to do parallel importation. We look at it as a reserve instrument, and in our experience, because we normally do full procurement not only for the local government units, but also for some hospitals on important molecules like cancer, mental health, cancer, specifically breast cancer and leukemia, and some other expensive like insulin, and so on and so forth. We realized that during our full procurement, and Ted Padilla is correct, they've been collaborating and cooperating with the government. Many of the winning bidders are multinational, okay? And sometimes, particularly for the cancer meds, we're surprised that the what you call this, the innovator brands are the ones that win in our bidding. For example, a brand that can, an injectable brand that can be bought at the biggest drugstore chain in the country at 45,000 per vial, we were able to procure it, the same innovator brand, the same brand from a multinational at 5,000 per injectable. But of course, they look at the idea of it is the government procuring it. We did procure it for the Department of Health. The multinational company is happy that their prices are never exposed because it is given for free by the Department of Health hospitals. In fact, I look at it as like an advertising piece because when the patient realize that it is a multinational brand, then they keep on looking for it. They keep on looking for it. So the reserve instrument of parallel importation, I think, is working to the government advantage because parang the multinationals are forced to participate in the bidding, especially if we are able to aggregate huge volume. Because the full procurement idea is being able to consolidate as many requirements of the government, whether it's LGU, it's Department of Health, or it's other government agencies, then we're able to consolidate all the requirements and we put together a huge bidding process. And many multinational companies particularly, or even local companies, would like to participate to a one huge bidding where they don't have to go in each municipalities or provinces or cities and do the distribution themselves. So we always tell our bidders and say, have a look at the total savings that you will incur. For example, having to have not many warm bodies dealing with all the different hospitals or different local government units and factor in all those savings in your prices. So I think that's also one of the reasons why we are able to get a much lower price. For example, a very good example, Mr. Senators, is the flu vaccine. We used to procure flu vaccine for agencies, government agencies, and there was a time when we were entrusted with the flu vaccine requirement of the Department of Health. To their surprise, we were able to lower further the acquisition cost that we used to have for this flu vaccine because we aggregate all the requirements. And they were surprised how come we were able to get back to them and say, we give you a total savings of 70 million. We said it's simple. Your volume requirement, we integrated the requirement of SSS, JSIS, Land Bank, so on and so forth. Even the telemarketers company participated in the full procurement. So the supplier, anyway, there are only 3 multinational suppliers of flu vaccine in the country. The supplier were happy to lower so much the cost because we not only limit ourselves, Mr. Senators, into procurement. We offer implementation of procurement and up to distribution, point-to-point distribution. We offer warehousing, forwarding.
Mr. Chairman.
So all the savings are being considered into the prices that the suppliers offer.
Mr. Chairman, may I just
Senator
make a quick comment
Senator
before?
Subiri first, then Senator Gatchalian to follow. Yes,
Thank you.
Migs.
Thank you very much, Chairman. With respect to my dear colleague, Senator Gatchalian, really quick lang. So, yun nga ang punto natin eh. Pwedeng babaan ang presyo ng gamot. We can bring down the cost. So I don't understand why you need to buy volume to be able to bring down the cost so much. It's obvious that they can actually bring down the cost and still make a profit. And if you compare notes, Mr. Chairman, with the cost of these vaccines in the Philippines as compared to India and Thailand, there you can retail it for that cost, that the discount that Mr. Cortez is saying. So why can't we sell it already at that discount here in the Philippines? It's a sad fact, Mr. Chairman, that really a lot of pharmaceuticals, and forgive me, Ted, if I have to say this, but my father was dealing with pharmaceuticals as governor of the province of Bukidnon, buying medicines for the provincial hospital, and they always come in high, and then they will offer, Mr. Chairman, they'll offer a rebate, a so-called rebate, which they give 20 to 30 to 40% rebate, but it cannot be announced. What is this rebate? It's a form of corruption, right? It's a rebate, but they're not supposed to put it in the books. And then when my father said, this is a true story, and Senator Coco knows my father very well, he would not be lying, because he put this out in the open after that meeting. Sabi niya, magbibigay daw sila ng discount na 40%. At yung discount din in terms of cash or kind. Kung anong gusto daw, biyahe, regalo, whatever. Sabi ng father ko, hindi, ayoko niyan. Bigyan mo ako ng 40% discount. Ang sagot nila sa tatay ko, hindi daw nila maibigay ang discount kasi kung maibigay daw nila ang discount, makakasuhan daw lahat ng politiko sa Region 10 na nag-avail na kanilang medicine program dahil binili po nila ng mahal. For example, if the drug was being retailed to the provinces for 100 pesos, and my father said, no, do not give me 40 pesos. I want only 60 pesos for the drug. Sabi nila, hindi nila magawa dahil yung disparity will open the eyes of COA and pandemic, all hell will break loose and you will open a Pandora's box. So, Pandora's box talaga mangyayari dyan. So, my point is, why can they give you that rebate? And instead of corruption, why don't they just, instead of offering it as in cash or in kind, why don't they just give the medicines cheaper? Kasi pwede naman as said by Mr. Cortez, they can buy cheaper abroad. Why is it being sold in the Philippines so much? That is my lingering question. And parang the day I die, I cannot, till the day I die, and hopefully that will be a long time from now, I cannot understand why we cannot work together, the pharmaceuticals coming up with the proper pricing that is known in other parts of the world, in our country, to give our people a chance to survive. Ang dami nating constituents, whether it is in the Valenzuela City Hospital or in Cagayan de Oro National, yung ating Northern Mindanao Medical Center, or in Bukidnon Provincial Hospital, so many people are dying because they can't afford the cancer medicines that Mr. Cortez is saying at 5,000. It's 50,000. The province cannot pay for those medicines, Mr. Chairman. So, yun sana gusto kong tanungin, and maybe this could be addressed to my dear friend Ted Padilla, because he's the spokesperson, I believe, of the pharmaceuticals, on why we can't bring down the prices to these levels, Mr. Chairman.
Before we continue, did I get cut off? Is it my signal or was it your signal? Jingle, did I get cut off?
Sir, hindi po, sir.
Okay, it was Mig's signal which got cut off. Before Mr. Padilla responds, kasi maybe the question of Senator Gatchalian is connected, so let's hear first from Senator Win Gatchalian.
Chairman, my question is in line but not the same, so I'll reserve it na lang po, Chairman.
Win, sabihin mo na para mapag-isipan anong sasagot.
Sige po. The chairman's upon the chairman's order. Mr. Chairman, I want to ask DOH, Dr. Guerrero, my kababayan from Valenzuela, a very basic question. And this is in line with the question of our good majority floor. bakit ho mas mura sa India at sa Vietnam? Because we keep on going back. No? Is it the patents? Is it I don't know? Is it the raw materials? Is it economies of scale? I'm sure you have studied this and worked back on why the medicines in those developing nations, just like us, no, developing nations, are cheaper. And that makes quite no sense for me that the developing nation is buying from another developing nation. So have you studied the cost structure of their medicine versus our cost structure here? That's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, okay, Mr. Padilla muna, then Dr. Guerrero. Mr. Padilla, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning again, and Senator Miggs. Good morning. I'm glad to see you are in good health. No. First, I wanted to also express, our concern because we're really sorry to hear about the experience that your father, the governor, had gone through. No. That will, of course, have to be investigated. But let me also assure you that the members of our association of PHAP, which are majority of whom are multinationals, are covered by Philippine, US, and UK, and European, and Japan anti-corrupt practices. No? So any activity that is done in any jurisdiction, even outside their home country, is covered by the long arm of their laws. No? If ever any member of ours has done anything of that sort, they should be reported, and they will definitely be dealt with by their own, particularly their own authorities. No? But let me also assure Senator Miggs, Mr. Chair, Senator Marcos, that our members are covered by a very strict code of practice. No? And to indulge in such behavior is really unspeakable, and it should be looked into. I think Senator Miggs, through the chair, I remember when we had a meeting in your office some time back, you recounted that story, and then you also took pause and you remembered that of who we were, and you actually did say that, no, but I know that you guys are covered by very strict codes of behavior, no? And we acknowledged your comment, and we thank you for that. No? So I'm very glad that I know in the heat of the moment we sometimes sweep everybody, together. But I want to assure you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, may I just make that? May I just correct myself? No, it were not. Those were pharmaceutical companies peddling these drugs to local governments. Are usually mga local bidders yan. In fairness to Mr. Ted Padilla and his group, yung tama po sinasabi niya, yung international organizations kasi, they follow strict anti-corruption measures or else they will be shut down in their own localities. That's correct. But this is an example. I'm just giving an example on the rebates that they're offering. And some of the drugs, maybe they buy it from the multinationals, but they sell it as a package. Those who approach the provinces for the medicines usually are local trading companies, and then they package everything already from multinational drugs to generic drugs. Kaya napapasama yung kanila because it's a trading firm that actually sells it. Because if, let's say, the province needs 100 different drugs, from paracetamol all the way to anti-cancer drugs, hindi po kaya ng isang company yan. Hindi kaya ng Pfizer yan, hindi kaya ng AstraZeneca, because they don't have all the products in that list. So usually the ones that approach the province are these trading firms, supposed trading pharmaceutical firms that package it all. So napapasama din yung mga drugs nila. And that's why I put it to their attention. I met with Sir Ted in the office, and to make that known to them that there are people selling to the province. Of course, not you directly, maybe they buy it from you guys, but we tried to figure out a way on bringing the prices down. So, I mean, in hospitals, I come from a family of doctors. My grandfather was one of the founders of Makati Med, Dr. Manuel Fernandez, the father of Philippine dermatology. And my uncles, my mom's brothers are all doctors. And my uncle used to be the president of Makati Med. So we know for a fact that big pharmaceutical companies, they get very close to the doctors. This is a very known practice. They get close to the doctors, and then they give certain favors, as long as they make sure that they don't put the generic brand sometimes, and then they put the lagay mo yung yung branded talaga, di ba? Ganun talaga. That's how the business is run. And that's how you market the products. And then you give all these benefits to the doctors. Maybe we can forego all of that in the country, and let's just say, let's bring down the prices for the sake of our people. Yun lang appeal ko sana, Ted. And I hope that we can give an answer why it is more expensive in the Philippines for the same drug and same brand in Thailand, Vietnam, and in India. Same brand and same company. How can that be, Mr. Padilla? Sir
Yeah.
Ted?
Yes, thank you, Senator Subiri, and through the chair. Again,
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
If I may, Mr. Chair, if that's okay. Yeah. So
Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah.
Padilla.
yes, we have always been compared, as Senator Zubiri and Senators Marcos pointed out. No? We have always been compared to other countries. Now, let me also explain. No? We in the Philippines has one of the highest out-of-pocket expenses per statistics. No? And why is that? Because again, unlike other developed markets and even the developing markets around us, we do not have a working single-payer system here. For example, we talk about in India, for instance. India has actually a population that's 13 times that of our population, which a very strong local manufacturing presence. So that gives them the advantage of volume and economies of scale. No? Now, if, for example, within ASEAN, we talk about Thailand, we talk about Vietnam. We are comparable with them, no? But these countries have more or less a similar economic status. But yet, if the prices of medicines are lower there, it's also because they have a single purchaser, a single buyer of these medicines, no? And that's why they can negotiate. And to answer your point, Senator Subiri, about why the companies can actually lower it. Again, this boils down to simple economics. If there's a guarantee of volume and volume can be produced, the cost per unit goes down. And that's why if there's a guarantee, then and as Mr. Joe Cortez pointed out, in terms of negotiation, companies can bring down the prices if there is that guaranteed volume that will be done and sustained over a period of time. If it's going to be done on a piece-by-piece basis, yung tingi, it will be difficult because it's also very unpredictable. It doesn't mean that the medicines will be delivered, let's say, all at once. It can be a guaranteed volume over a period of time, whether a year, or if procurement laws will allow, even, let's say, 2 or 3 years. But once that's locked in place, then that's the price, and that will already translate to better efficient savings.
Ted, may I just interject, with the permission of my colleagues. But it doesn't make sense, my friend. No, it doesn't make sense. And we've had this discussion many times, even on our Sundays when we see each other in church. We've had these discussions that it doesn't make sense why Thailand, for example, which has a smaller population than us, Vietnam has a smaller population than us, and yet the same branded drug is almost 50% cheaper there than with us. I really doubt that Thailand does a single purchase for their drugs. Maybe Vietnam, because it's a communist country. I'm not familiar with Vietnam, but Thailand, Ted, is basically the same, similarly situated, capitalist-driven economy as the Philippines. I'm sure they have several drug stores that sell and peddle the drugs. No, yung punto ko dyan is, hindi ba doesn't the pharmaceutical company, don't they come up with one particular price, retail price for the whole, for the whole region, rather than say, oh, you know what, let's make it expensive for the Philippines, let's make it cheap for Thailand or Vietnam. It doesn't make any sense. Is it because they want to make more profit in the Philippines and less profit in these areas for some sort of reason? I can't. It boggles the mind. I mean, if they really want to help save lives, as their mottos all say, the best way to do it is to come up with one single pricing for the whole region, and that way, then I can understand if the price in Thailand and Vietnam are the same prices as the Philippines, then we wouldn't have this conversation. I wouldn't even invite that group, or the multinational group. The problem is, and it's very blatant, Mr. Chairman, is the prices in these countries, which are regional, this is in our region, are so much cheaper than the prices in the Philippines, and I do not know why. We cannot appeal to them, being country directors. Can't we appeal to the bigger higher ups, to the bosses of the region, say, can't we at least bring down the prices comparable to Thailand and Vietnam? Why we have not made that push to the big bosses of the pharmaceutical companies, Ted?
Yeah, thank you. Again, Senator Zubiri, Senator Mix, and through the chair, keep in mind one thing. Thailand has a system where it is mostly or mainly government, and I think Dr. Guerrero can agree, that almost more than 90% of the purchases or the medicines as dispensed are done actually through government pharmacies, for government hospitals, government pharmacies, and that's exactly why, as we are saying, having a single purchaser, a bulk purchaser, coming in with the volumes, sitting down in the table and saying, for this amount, what is this? And that's actually also what other countries like China and Vietnam are doing. You talk about the communist system, okay, if you want to set that aside, but Thailand is not a communist country, and yet they can afford to do this. Why? Because they have their universal healthcare system in place. And yes, we already have the UHC. We signed, President Duterte signed that in 2019, and now we just need to implement it. One of the good things about it is that what Joe Cortez was talking about is actually in that UHC law. We can actually do all of these things and get those medicine prices down in exchange for a guaranteed volume and the pooling of all resources. We can work together on that. There's no doubt. That's why we want to move away as much as possible. We'd like to move away from being dependent on out-of-pocket expenditures. And taking this opportunity, I'd also like to thank Senator Marcos for her role in lifting the VAT on medicines, because that actually was a one other measure by which we can actually see affordability and accessibility improve. Let's keep in mind that every little step helps in this regard. And so I also want to mention that in our Senator Zubiri, and perhaps it's through the chair, Senator Pimentel, back in November of 2018, we actually had a technical working group meeting precisely to discuss Senator Zubiri's bill, which was then filed. This was before universal health care was passed. Now, when we discussed the concept of the Drug Price Regulatory Board, those present, many of whom are here today, came to a conclusion, and this was actually chaired by Attorney Jingle, Attorney J. Kerubin, I'm sorry, that rather than have a drug price regulatory board concept, let's look more at a drug market review board. What does that mean? Because if you look at in the working group, the agreement was rather than have it is a more encompassing board that will review not only pricing, but also other factors that may impact access and availability of medicines in the market. So in this proposal, the board will not be bound just to recommend price regulation, but also other measures to improve overall access to medicines for all Filipinos. And everyone in the room came into that accord, as we concluded that meeting that day. Now, in this respect, as much as we also feel that there's no need to create another layer, with all of these new laws that have been passed during this administration, helping patients and also helping everyone involved, let's look at that idea instead of just working purely on price. So I yield now to the chair and to others who may also have some comments on that matter. But we can definitely work together. Let's just remember that we are not the same as these other countries, because we still have a very much highly out-of-pocket system, which universal healthcare is supposed to correct and is supposed to improve. At the same time, there is an executive order out, Mr. Chair, on a pricing negotiation board, which we welcome, because that way that is also going to be coming in, working hand in hand with UHC and with the Cancer Control Act. So there are many ways by which we can do this without having to impose mandatory price cuts, and this is where we stand. Thank you.
Nix, okay na? We can
Maybe we can continue with sa DOH kay Senator Gatchalian. I think Si Ma'am Melissa will answer.
Sige, but before I recognize Dr. Guerrero, Mr. Padilla, you mentioned the pricing negotiation board. What is this, sir? From what?
Well, what we understand, sorry, Mr. Chair, from what we understand, there is an order on the establishment of a price negotiation board, which is actually pretty much in sync with what we've been discussing here. That the government, PhilHealth, for instance, will be the one to actually negotiate or together with PPPI to institutionalize the negotiation for the procurement of medicines as a whole, no? And I think the private sector is supposed to be able to participate as well in that endeavor.
Pa-confirm natin ito. You heard that this is an order from what department or agency?
If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chair, I think it's actually institution because instituted
Hello,
by
who got cut? Did I get cut or kayo? Jingle.
You're okay, Mr. Chair.
Comsec.
Sir, nag-lag kayo.
Comsec, did you lose me?
Okay na, sir, ulit.
Did you lose my signal? Ako?
Konti lang, sir. Konti lang po.
Ako na naman.
Opo, konti lang.
Sige. I did not hear the response of Mr. Padilla. Pero anyway, ano na? Dr. Guerrero na. Dr. Guerrero, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, Chair, let me just address po yung earlier question of Senator Gatchalian on the why India has lower prices overall. Because India, decades ago, has invested in the building up of its generics industry. So, as you know, it is the pharmacy to the world, and it has volume. It has, ang population niya, more than 1.5 billion, I believe. So, yung market pa lang niya, malaki na yung volume. And it is also supplying vaccines and generic drugs to developed markets and even the United Nations agency. So yung mga vaccine natin na pre-qualified actually galing po ng India. So I think that's another thing that we need to explore probably in the amendment of the Cheaper Medicines Act. It is because we're so dependent on the importation of drugs and we don't really have a very strong and reliable drug manufacturing industry. Just like what happened here dito po sa COVID, where it was really a learning experience na nag-close yung ibang countries and then suddenly we have shortages of several drugs here because we're so reliant. So I think that's one thing that we need to learn from this pandemic na to really build our own local industry. Kasi even if we have compulsory licensing, so Senator Aimee is asking about the compulsory licensing. Yes, we have those instruments in the law. So that means at any one time when the Secretary of Health declares we need this drug to address a public health emergency, we can have this patented drug manufactured by our generics industry, but then wala namang capacity po mag-manufacture yung local natin. So that's the gap there. So we don't really have a very strong local manufacturing industry. So that's something that we can support also with the strengthening of the Cheaper Medicines Act. On the
and then I may add manufacturing. Ang masakit pa dyan, tayo yung nauna nung dekada 70, tayo nag-export and Filipinos actually set up so many of the pharma factories in Southeast Asia, including Thailand and Indonesia. It's really dismal today that this very promising start did not push forward. Maybe later on we can also ask Mr. Chair, what is the government doing specifically to encourage the local pharma, local manufacturers? Kasi we hear from time to time that there is some kind of a pharma area in Bulacan na sunod-sunod naman yung mga factory, kaya lang hindi naman tinutulungan talaga. There's also the example of Vietnam where the eco zones, may eco zone na strictly pharma and health lamang. Kaya they were able to respond to the COVID crisis so quickly. So these are ideas that we need to explore. After all, gayahin lang natin yung best practices.
Thank you, Senator Marcos.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
so
Doctor.
Let me just add po dun sa price negotiation board because that has been raised. So just to clarify po, the board is now constituted. It was created by virtue of the Universal Healthcare Law. And the purpose of this board is to negotiate on behalf of the government. So ang main purchasing authorities kasi natin, Department of Health and PhilHealth for universal healthcare. But this is only meant to address the prices of single source patented medicines, not for all medicines. So kailangan po, we can directly negotiate, but only if the product has a single source, only if the product is patented, because the rest of the medicines can be subjected to other government instruments like competition, procurement, bidding. So, but only those with patents are the ones subjected under price negotiation. And hopefully we can have this functional this year, especially with the cancer law. Na marami pong high-price medicines for that. Yun pong kanina ring discussion on the pricing. I think yung bakit magkaiba yung presyo dito compared to other countries. I think we have to look at it not as simple as that po, because you have to look at pricing at different points of the supply chain. When we review the pricing of medicines in the Philippines, when we were doing the review for Executive Order 104, what we found was that at different levels of the supply chain, may mga patong. So for example, even if a wholesaler from PHAP or the PCPI already, ito yung wholesale price, pero pagdating po sa private hospital, lalo na po sa private hospital, ang laki po ng patong. And that is the role of the MDRP. It is to correct the inefficiencies in the market. So kahit po ang PHAP companies magbigay ng ganito lang yung presyo, kung magpapatong naman po yung drugstores and private. So I can tell you po, even our own DOH hospitals, before we issued the regulation of markups, I saw one vial of drug. It's a cancer drug. Ang benta po niya ay parang 80,000, and then ang pagbenta sa pasyente parang naging 125,000 for a single vial. So I don't understand also the markups being applied. And this is something that the price regulation through the MDRP addresses. It is not just dun sa point of wholesale, but at all levels of the supply chain.
Senator Sherwin,
may I add, Mr. Chairman, to what Dr. Guerrero had just said, just really quickly, and that sometimes make them worse than terrorists, Mr. Chairman. They are worse than terrorists because these are people in the hospital who need the lifeblood of medicine and to stay alive. And yet papatungan nila ng ganung kasing amount na kung hindi man lang mabuhay dahil sa gamot, mamamatay dahil sa billing. Dahil sa sobrang taas ng billing. Totoo po yan, Mr. Chairman. That's why I consider them another form of economic terrorists and saboteurs, because it is so much you can make profit, but you don't profit from the misery of these people. That's what I've been pushing for from day one. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that manifestation, Majority Leader. It captures actually the sentiment of the people and the frustration that we are, frustration and maybe desperation that we are slowly feeling. So, delikado po yan. Pagka kalat-kalat na yan, worse than a pandemic yan, that will be a social volcano. Actually. So, Senator Sherwin, you follow up, yes?
Yes, but Mr. Chair, thank you for the response of Dr. Guerrero. And hearing that, Mr. Chair, seems to be that the whole supply chain wants to profit from this, And because sometimes the specialty drugs are very hard to come by, marami mo talagang umaabuso. So it seems to me that this type of law is needed to send the signal that government is ready to use the law in order to deliver medicines to our constituents. Maganda na rin ho, Mr. Chair, hindi naman ibig sabihin na may ganitong law, the government will use it. But it's a signaling to all actors in the medicine industry, from pharma to the supply chain to hospital, that government is ready to use the law in order to deliver help to our constituents through cheaper medicine. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, let's recognize the consumer sector. There's a raising of hand, digital hand by the Laban consumer. Tama po ba yan, sir? Attorney Dimagiba?
Yeah. Kamusta po kayo, Senator, Mr. Chairman, Senator Win, nakita ko din, Senator Marcos. Mr. Chairman, meron lang akong tanong kay Dr. Guerrero. Supposedly, there will be a second batch where the maximum drug retail price will be promulgated. Tapos na po yata yung public hearing, consultation with the technical working group. If I remember right, Dr. Guerrero, mga 33 o 60 molecules pa yata yun. Kailan po ba mai-issue yung executive order?
Nasa, I think, final stages na po ng review sa Office of the President. We have already consulted all the stakeholders, you, the consumers, even the industry will be affected. So, nasa Office of the President na po. I think nire-review na po nila.
Thank you very much for the update, Mr. Chairman. Alam nyo, 17th Congress pa itong creation of a drug price regulatory board, no? I remember we actively participated in the House committee, si dating Congressman the Elder Biron, no? And also in your committee here in the Senate. But meantime, you know, we actually loaded the DOH for that program of implementing the cheaper medicine law now through that maximum drug retail price executive order. And there will be another list forthcoming. It's very helpful because both MDRP, Mr. Chairman, were issued or will be issued the second one during the time of COVID-19. So maganda po yung timing niya, although the preparation, the study also took place sometime in 2019. Hopefully, with the update of Dr. Guerrero, I know her personally because we worked together on this, that second executive order will be issued soon as the Congress deliberate on a formal process through this drug price regulatory board. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Guerrero, yung inclusion in the EO talagang nakatulong naman sa pagbaba ng presyo. Meron tayong before and after figures.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will submit po yung before and after prices, and some patient groups have already thanked po the Department of Health, especially yung po may mga kidney disease. Sila po kasi yung mahal yung maintenance.
So, 80 plus yan, sabi mo? 80 na, no? 80 plus.
85, I think, was the EO 104. There's another 35 forthcoming kung ma-sign po ng Office of the President.
Okay, pero tuloy, our crusade will continue, no? Majo, Migs, this crusade, this is a crusade and advocacy, this will continue. Kasi kung bloated na yung initial price, diniscountan mo, tapos happy na tayo dahil discounted, pero bloated, baka bloated pa rin yun, hindi ba? So, we will continue with this crusade to look for the most reasonable and affordable price of medicines to be made accessible to the Filipinos. So, yun po ang gawin natin. So, this will now be the advocacy of this committee, which we will try now to capture through this law. Mukhang kaya naman eh. When we say Drugs and Medicine Price Regulatory Board, we can empower the board to do everything which affects the price. Ano mo, Majo, if lagyan natin ng power yan, even yung pagsusponsor ng mga trips ng doktor sa mga conferences, if that adds to the price, anuhin natin yan. I mean, that should not be beyond the reach of the board. Ano mo, Majo?
Actually, Chairman, tama sinabi ni Dr. Guerrero. She just mentioned it right there and then. Even in the private hospitals, yung patong napakalaki. Imagine 80,000 naging 125,000. That's a 45,000 increase. My goodness. So, things like that, we can look in, the board can look into, and then you can put penalty clauses on that. You know, magagalit sa akin yung mga uncle ko, pero ganun talaga. You know, we have to put health of the people priority at this point in time. We're government policy makers, lalo na tayo sa Senado. we dictate policy. And I think this is a good policy to have. Especially right now, lalong dumami yung mahihirap natin mga kababayan, Senator Coco, because of this pandemic. You're looking at an increase of the poor, the rates of our poverty, people in poverty, increasing by almost 20%, if I'm not mistaken. So yung dating less than 20% poverty rates of the Philippines, you're probably looking at back to the rates of 30 to 40%. No, these are self-rated poverty. So they need all the help they can get, and at this time of the pandemic, bawal nga magkasakit, they need all the medicines that they can get, particularly yung maintenance medicines. So ayusin natin, let's work with them, but I'm willing to work with Mr. Padilla, with Ted, and this group. Let's come up with a board that that can do its job efficiently, effectively, but also listens to the needs of the pharmaceuticals. But let's come up with a win-win solution, not for them, not for the pharmaceuticals, but a win-win solution, Mr. Chairman, for the consumers,
For the people.
patients, for the people. Tama po yan, Chairman. Thank
So-
you. And napapasalamat po ako sa DOH nga po. And if we can also be given a list, yung listahan, Chairman, yung kay Melissa, kay Dr. Melissa, yung listahan before and after. Maganda po yung before and after na makita po natin yung before and after, Doktora. Thank you.
Napakagandang topic nitong bills ninyo, Senator Mig, Senator Marcos. If we can really do a good job here, this can be a game changer. I mean, where the effect of the law will really be felt by the people immediately. Sana ganun nga ang mangyari. So let's ako medyo na-inspire ako sa exchanges ngayon na the problem is real. Yun importante sa lahat eh. We have to confirm first that the problem is real and there are solutions. So but sa Pilipinas hindi natin ma-match yung solution sa problem. Sige, teka. Senators Marcos and Gatchalian are both raising their hands. Mag-ladies first tayo. Senator Marcos.
Sige, mabilis lang. Hindi, babanggitin ko lang kay Leader Subiri na meron sinabi kanina ang DOH na sana yung price increases wag masyadong hihigit sa inflation rate. Maganda kasing suggestion yun kasi kung minsan yung price increase, maha-heart attack ka na para sa heart medicine. Dahil lumobo ng todo-todo, ang gulatan eh. Tama yung sinabi niya. The other thing, I'm not certain if we've talked about it, but we will have to get rid of the senior citizens and the PWD discount. Kasi hindi naman pwedeng 20% menos pa doon sa inimpose na discounted rates na ng regulatory board na to. Para clarification lang, para maliwanag saan tayo. Nabanggit rin ng DOH yun, ina-underline ko lang.
Pero Senator Amy, some of us may not agree with that. I mean, kasi
yes, I
because
understand.
That's a benefit. So
I understand. Kaya alam yung 20%, hindi ko alam kung papayag pa yung mga pharma niyan kasi binabagsak na natin.
Correct.
I suppose that's another thing that we have to study and for future reference kasi baka maging major distortion na yan sa price. Fair warning lang po.
That's an angle which is being shown to us, no? Open to us, a perspective, no, of being shown to us. Okay, Senator Win, you're raising your hand.
Mr. Chair, I just have two questions to Dr. Guerrero. Is she still there? Nawala yata ho siya. Yeah, so Dr. Guerrero.
Yes po.
I have two questions lang. Number one, yung EO ba, the executive order, is it recommendatory or regulatory powers? And then number two, I just want to play the devil's advocate, Mr. Chair, if you allow me. Of course, the economists will always frown upon price regulation, no? Because it's counterintuitive. So in your experience and analysis, Dr. Guerrero, this type of medicine price regulation, can it affect innovation and access? Because obviously the reaction of the pharma is to pull out the medicines, and in effect, it will affect our access. So, from your observation and analysis, meron bang ganitong phenomenon whenever you put price regulation on medicine? So, those are my two questions, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Doctor.
Opo, I'm sorry po, baka yung faulty yung internet ko. So I hope I'm clear. So for this question, the Secretary of Health right now is recommending to the President. So ultimately, it is the President who will sign an executive order before price regulation takes. Pwedeng hindi pirma ng Presidente, pwedeng. Oo, pwedeng lahat ma-include dun sa executive order, pwedeng hindi. Dun po sa can it curtail access? That is why this is a very careful balancing act. So we study each medicine carefully and we make sure po na we balance all the perspectives coming from the consumers. Of course, they want affordable access and also dun sa pharmaceutical industry na sustainable naman yung price points. But then again, I would argue, what good is a drug? Kahit po life-saving kung hindi naman mabili ng gobyerno or hindi mabili ng pasyente, di ba? So you really have to make your prices affordable. I mean, there are drugs right now which cause mga cancer po na nagpapabili sa Department of Health, 5 million per patient. I mean, kahit po developed countries nahihirapan po. In fact, there's a whole WHO cancer pricing report that really made medicine prices a global issue. And yun lang, we have to balance po all perspectives. But I hope the industry understands it. It's not the job of the government to get you out of business, but to approach or to achieve a price level, an affordable, a win-win solution for everyone.
To add to that, Mr. Chair, I guess the regulation does not only target pharmaceuticals, but also the supply chain, as explained by Dr. Guerrero, because in that supply chain, there are traders, kagaya na sabi ni Madjo kanina, 34, the traders also make a lot of money, and then pagbagsak po sa hospital, the hospital makes a lot of money also. So, thank you, Dr. Guerrero. Mr. Chair, magaling mo talaga yan si Dr. Guerrero, taga Valenzuela ho yan. Senator Sherwin, former mayor of Valenzuela, I agree with what you said. Kaya nga sabi ko kanina, maybe we should empower this board sa TWG natin pag-aralan so that it will have all the powers necessary to determine and make a reality the reasonable price for each medicine. So hindi lang yung sa tignan natin yung customs duties niya, freight cost niya, yung mga sponsorship niya, plus yung mga markup per step in the supply chain. Finally, yung markup sa drugstore na or sa hospital. Dr. Guerrero, yung nakita mo bang 80,000 na naging 120,000? Was that a private hospital or a government hospital?
DOH hospital po. I cannot po.
DOH hospital, government hospital.
DOH hospital. Government hospital po yung nakita namin. But the prices, the markups are really more...
Yes, example lang po
yun in one specialty medicine.
Ang gusto ko lang ipalabas, yung example na naibigay mo involve a government hospital. So, imagine mo yun. Anyway,
yes, Mr. Chair. Opo.
Yes,
but we have already addressed this kasi po nag-issue na rin kami ng bagong regulation ng markup sa DOH hospital.
Sige, i-compile namin po lahat yan when we now work on this in a technical working group. We will try our best, Madjo. Solusyonan na natin ito. One-shot deal with all our energies, Senator Marcos, Senator...
Yes, please.
In the technical
I promise you, Chairman, in the floor, we will prioritize it so that we can tackle it in the floor. I promise you.
I will personally attend and supervise the TWG para we get all of the information that we need. Mr. Padilla, were you raising your hand? And then,
yes.
And then after Mr. Padilla, all the others now who want to say something about this bill because we will move on to another topic. No? So, Mr.
Yes.
Padilla?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. No, just a few points lang before I take my leave. No, I just wanted to mention that we do support having a strong manufacturing, like a pharmaceutical manufacturing industry here. No, and we have actually submitted a position to the DTI on the matter. No, we to help with our suggestions on how to make the Philippines an attractive place for investment. No, in that paper, so we would be happy to share that with you. One thing that we also have asked from the Department of Health is to conduct an impact assessment, no, of the policy of the executive order, the maximum retail price, no, to see firsthand if it is really achieved its objective, no, of improving access. Because again, as in the past MRP, which the first round, you know, there were cases where actually some companies did pull out, and many products also disappeared, no. And if you were to look at the level of new product introductions in the country, there are not that many compared to our neighbors, no? Because again, they're for various reasons, including the unsustainability, you know, of policies, no. But again, we are with you in understanding that patients come first, no, and that's why there are already various tools in the UHC which we very much support, no, that we should make use of in the National Cancer Control Act as well, no, which is the pool procurement, price negotiation, the strengthening of manufacturing in the Philippines. So bear in mind that all price regulation, as you also point out, Mr. Chair, and Senator Win Gatchalian, it has its risk, you know? And we hope that the DOH and Congress will also look into this. No? And we believe that a drug market review board would be much more encompassing, no? As we discussed in your committee back in 2018. No? Even in light of the, and particularly with UHC and the NICA laws in place, this would actually be, I think, dovetail nicely with what the DOH, with what your respective honors would want to achieve for the public and for the country. No? And we continue to reinvest in innovation. And that's why, that's how we were able to come up with a vaccine speedily. No? So we look forward to working with you in this matter, Mr. Chair, and to participate actively in any TWG that you shall call. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yung Drug Market Review Board that you have mentioned also includes the power to regulate prices, di ba?
That's right.
Tama?
That's correct.
Okay, okay. So, yeah, we can harmonize the concepts. Okay. No problem. Dr. Guerrero, do you have records in the DOH about drugs being withdrawn from the country or pharmaceutical companies, foreign, which have closed the shop because they didn't like our drug pricing policies or they found our market not to be profitable? Meron ba tayong record na ganyan?
Sir, we are yet to conduct a review of the current price regulation, but we have a review during the last Arroyo executive order. We can submit that. Wala naman nag-withdraw, sir.
Past experience natin, meron bang popular drug na hindi no longer sold? Basta
Yeah, so the first EO was passed by President Arroyo then. So only 6 or 5 drugs were affected, kaya hindi siya ganun kalaki yung impact. So wala naman pong nag-pull out. In fact, after the price regulation, nagtumaas nga yung volume of sales ng drugs under MPRP.
Okay. ComSec, can we ask the Philippine Competition Policy to just submit their position paper? Kasi there was a concept introduced by Mr. Padilla, yung sabi niya is price regulation versus competition. So let's get their point of view from the competition side.
We will invite them. We will ask them to submit.
Okay, let's formally write them, and
Yes,
then
sir.
to last matter on this bill, on these bills, the point of Senator Marcos is DTI present. What is the state of our pharma manufacturing industry in the Philippines? Meron ba? At ano bang napoproduce natin dito? Is DTI present? Who's the highest ranking DTI representative?
Sir, VP Jose Cortez represented the DTI for this agenda, sir. Si Sir Jose Cortez kanina po. The one from PITC.
Si Mr. Cortez pa din. Mr.
Yes,
Cortez, kung wala, maybe the DOH also knows, no? DOH, Dr. Guerrero, do we have a pharmaceutical manufacturing industry in the Philippines?
We do have, sir, but there are only a few who we can say are strong manufacturers. Mostly we import po kasi.
Producing what?
Mostly oral forms. Yung IV hindi masyado. The biologics, no. We can submit, sir, the report of the local pharma on what they can manufacture. We can ask them to submit.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chair? Yeah, Mr. Chair, I was going to say kasi in the light of CREATE, natapos na yung rationalization ng fiscal incentives. Siguro we can carve out within that something for special pharma ecozones, which have been the reason for the great success of both India, Thailand, as well as, of course, Vietnam now. Thank you.
So thank you, ma'am. Is that PEZA? Does that involve PEZA, Senator Amy?
Yes po, that involves PEZA, and it's strictly devoted to pharma and health production. So it's a very attractive way of bringing in investors in one area. Baka naman pwede yun.
Committee Secretary, can we formally ask PEZA for a position paper on the idea?
Actually, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
we can also ask, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We can also ask Senator Pia in her office to provide us provisions of the CREATE, which should be very, very helpful to the pharmaceutical companies. Marami po tayong essential industry kasi siya. Under the essential industry, pasok siya sa priority list. Right, CREATE rationalizes all fiscal incentives. So there are a few locators, for example, in PEZA areas that will be affected by it. Those who are already operating for the last 20 years not paying taxes. However, under CREATE, we also come up with provisions for expansion of existing players and new players. So I think PHAP can take advantage of that. It's a generous package of incentives. Up to 17 years yata yung income tax holidays and tax privileges given to them. So it's something that we can probably, hindi pa siguro alam ng grupo ni Mr. Padilla. Ted, we have this fantastic package under the new CREATE measure. Not to mention, Mr. Chairman, we bring down corporate income tax by 25% from 30%. So kita ka agad yun. That's a 5% increase of their income. So it's a big help for these industries.
One last hearing na lang kasi the consensus worldwide that there should be a patent pool, a shared patent for all countries, particularly in the wake of COVID, it's gaining ground. So we should be ready with our own pharma zone so that we can take advantage of local manufacturing once the patents are released for production for everyone. That's the only way we can guarantee supply, cheap and reliable supply.
Mr. Padilla.
Just one quick point. Thank you for Mr. Chair and Senator Meigs for mentioning that. One concern that has always plagued, and it's not just the pharmaceutical industry, but other industries, is the cost of power, the cost of electricity. So if these zones can actually provide more, on top of, you mentioned the fiscal incentives, they could actually provide that, because that has often been that's a common finding with economic think tanks, that it's the cost of power that actually turns industries off from actually expanding. So that would be very helpful to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else who wants to be heard on this topic before we leave it? Just call my attention. Kung wala na po.
Sir, si Attorney Santos po.
Attorney Santos of the Philippine Retailers Association. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one comment regarding the proposed creation of the Drug Price Regulatory Board. I noticed the composition of the board, and would it be possible, Your Honor, to include a representative of the industry as well? Because being the retail industry in this board, because especially for the drugstores, because being the uh, being the or industry group that will bear the brunt of implementing the rules to be implemented by this proposed body. I think it's a good idea to install an industry representative to this proposed committee, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, well, we will tackle that in the technical working group, but we will make sure that whatever board we create consults with all the stakeholders. Ganun po importante. That there should be a consultation. If should there be no representation within the board, there should be a consultation. Anyway, the debates will be done in the TWG, sir. Ayusin natin yan. We have heard the recommendation. So, anybody else? Sana si DTI, hingian na lang natin ng position paper or report on the Pharma Zone Initiative. Committee Secretary just write the DTI BO. Okay, so with that, I think we have discussed this sufficiently. Comsec? What did you say? Okay, so we can move on to another topic. We now formed the TWG for this two bills. Attorney Kerubin, please invite all of those interested and inform the senators personally so we can attend the TWG and really involve ourselves.
Yes, sir.
Subukan na natin ito once and for all kung kaya.
Thank you. Thank you, malaking bagay.
Kung kaya ng Thailand, kaya ng Vietnam, kaya din natin. Kaya din natin. Kaya ng Canada.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Salamat, Mr. Chairman. At least it's something to work with and look forward to.
Marami namang models we can look to. Okay, so we now move on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Those whose business has finished with the committee, thank you. Thank you. You can leave us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ted. Thank you. Can we tackle Senate Bill 1515, the bill of the Senate President, because this is time-bound. This provides for the employer's liability protection from COVID-19. So time-bound po ito. Who have we invited as resource persons for this topic?
From DTI, sir.
I lost my
ASEC Joan Karen Riola, please.
Yes, ASEC of DTI. Have you read the bill?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Good morning, sir.
1515.
DTI.
ASEC Joan Riola,
Yes.
go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you very much for this opportunity. On behalf of the DTI, we, consistent with our mandate, under RA 9501, Mr. Chair, we manifest our support for this bill. Of course, subject to the labor laws safeguard.
Thank you. Thank you, ASEC Riola. Do we have a DOLE representative?
Yes,
Or
sir.
ECC representative?
Good afternoon po, Mr. Chair.
Please identify yourself, ma'am.
I'm Queen
Ma'am
Felisa. Yes, Chair. I'm Queen
Yes,
Felisa
ma'am.
from the Bureau of Working Conditions of the Department of Labor and Employment. In behalf po of the department, we manifest our support to SB and 1515 considering that it is the current practice or the current rules that is being observed, wherein employers are not directly liable should there be work-related illnesses such as COVID. And we just would like, however, to highlight that this exemption is subject to compliance with payment of SSS and other applicable rules and regulations. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ma'am Espinas, when you said that, are you saying that's pursuant to present law? This is all, the subject matter is already being achieved pursuant to present law or just a present regulation?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Present regulation, sir.
Can you cite the regulation, please?
Sorry, Mr.
And then on what law is the regulation based?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. That is under the ECC and SSS rules po.
But you seem to be familiar nga with this So can you cite us may resolution number or decision number ganon? Kung kaya lang, if you need more time, you can communicate with the committee na lang in writing.
We will just include it, sir, sa position paper po ng Department of Labor.
Yes, because if that is the case already, then enacting a law on the same subject matter might even give the impression that before the enactment of the law, that was not the rule.
Yes, sir.
Yun na nga, so
what I'm trying to say, Mr. Chair, is that at present, employers po are not automatically liable if the employee becomes COVID positive. What the employee can do is that they can file for EC claim before the Employees Compensation Commission through the SSS. And it is the ECC who will provide for the benefits po.
Okay, so the employee still has a remedy, except that it's a different entity, no longer the employer but the ECC.
Yes, sir, through the SSS po.
So ultimately, it is the SSS whose pocket will now answer for the damages experienced by the employee.
The EC claim po will be filed through the SSS, and it is the ECC which will pay for the benefits po.
ECC, ECC. Is there any representative from the ECC, COMSEC, or the SSS?
None, sir,
ECC?
for today. We will just send them a letter po.
Okay, let's just ask for the official position paper from the ECC on this subject matter. SSS na rin, and then the DOLE.
Yes, sir.
Because if they all confirm that the principle being pursued by the bill is already the prevailing rule anyway, and then the employee is not left without any remedy, but he has a clear remedy for which he will be adequately and promptly compensated, then maybe that is already what the Senate President wants, and we will just give him a report that that's already the present system. So subject to confirmation yan. So we really need these communications from the DOLE, SSS, and ECC. Kung pwede prompt, can you give them a deadline, COMSEC, so that we can also find out? But at any rate, I hear no objection. No, there's no objection from the said against the said bill, SB 1515. How about from our are there labor groups or our consumer groups present? Any comment? SB 1515, DTI. Kayo yung employer's point of view yata. So okay kayo rito.
We support for MSMEs, Mr. Chair.
MSMEs pero ito kasi employees ang ano to I'm looking I'm looking at the issue from the point of view of the employees. I mean, for as long as the remedy is there, still there, and it's adequate, it's prompt, then there should be no damage. Consumer group, wala, no reaction. Okay, so okay, SB 1515, we will endorse to the plenary subject to the inputs, the position papers of at least three agencies, DOLE, SSS, and ECC. Okay, so okay, we can move on to OTOP, the DTI. Abang andito ba ang DTI before they take their lunch break? Let's go to the OTOP bill. OTOP Philippines Act of 2020, Senate Bill 1896. Okay, this bill, Attorney Kerubin will, my legislative staff will explain to us the essence of this bill. Maganda rin ito eh.
Sir.
Sir, si Jessica po.
Okay, Attorney Cheska, please just summarize in one paragraph
Yes,
or
sir.
in 3 sentences.
Sir, okay, sir. Sir, basically, the OTOP bill is institutionalizing the OTOP program, or the one town, one product program of the DTI. So, by virtue of this bill, there will be an OTOP program office in each LGU which shall address or help local products, basically boost the local products of each identified area, sir.
Okay, any comments, positions? Let's start with DTI. This is your program. Sino sa DTI?
ASEC po yata, andito.
ASEC.
Sino ba sa DTI?
ASEC Naga, please.
Kasi ASEC, doon na.
ASEC Dunaga?
Yeah. I am Assistant Secretary Defna Dunaga from Department of Trade and Industry, Regional Operation Group, representing the One Town, One Product Philippines. Can I request the slide? I forwarded already for the Secretariat.
Ma'am, we haven't received as of that morning po. Pwedeng pa-share na lang po from your end. We haven't received anything yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, ma'am, kung mahirap, just send to us na lang the PowerPoint or the But can you state your position on the bill? I'm expecting you to be fully supportive.
Auto PMO proposed position of the Senate Bill 1896. Generally, the Auto PMO welcomed the proposal Senate Bill number 1896, otherwise known as the Institutionalizing the One Town, One Product Philippines program, appropriating fund, therefore, and for other purposes by Senator Ramon Revilla Jr. The Auto PMO also sustained the DTI position of the version put forward in the House of Representatives, namely House Bill number 7312, titled An Act for Promoting Exclusive and Sustainable Economic Development through the institutionalization of the One Town, One Product Philippines program. Appropriating fund, therefore, and for other purposes by Magsasaka Party List, Representative Angel Joseph Cabatbat, and House Bill number 7672, titled The Act Institutionalizing the One Town, One Product Philippines program, appropriating fund, therefore, and for other purposes. And particularly, SB 1896 is not only in the line, but it is also enforcement and mandate of the OTOP as enshrined of the Executive Order number 176 series of 2003, wherein it has been commissioned as one of the TTI priority program in support of the MSMEs manufacture, offer, and promote distinguished products and services during indigenous raw materials and talents. Moreover, it is endeavors to capacitize entrepreneurs to innovate and produce market-ready products and services. However, the Auto PMO would like to put forward the following point for consideration. Section 1 of Section 4, definition of term. It can observe that nowhere in the purpose of bill did the concept of large enterprises and non-MSMEs explainedly, clearly, and categorically lack and establish vice versa overall objective with measured seek and to address. To dissolve this conundrum, and the following we take account. Section 4A, if freed its relation of Section 9, who may qualify, it can be presumed that the purpose of defining large enterprises is not only what compress such C, but to also establish at the same that not covered qualified within the ambit computation of the Act. Section 4B, if freed in relation of Section 7, covered the definition according to the non-MSME's product would appear as extension of beyond of the coverage of the Auto PH program. As such, this may be incorporated under Section 7 only to elaborate what was covered and what are to not. In addition, the Auto PMO would like to seek clarification to spoof and identification of the agreed tool. Presently, there are ongoing consultations between the DTI and DBM regarding the proposal of executive order to be issued by the latter, which will facilitate the devolutions of the DTI project to the LGU following the Mandamus ruling, and view this development, the Auto PMO proposes that this matter be taken into the account in the course of the deliberating the bill, given that the dynamic between the DTI and LGU as far as the management development of the OTOP is concerned, and the purpose of the role of the LGU once measured as were already discussed in this act. Yeah, that is the proposed position on Senate bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Asek Dunaga, and thank you for pointing out to us the possible effect, the ramifications of the Mandanas ruling. Oo nga. So, we will take this into account. There is a proposed EO now, drafted by DTI-DBM on the devolution of or transfer of some DTI projects to the LGU. So, thank you for that information. In the technical working group, we will take this into account. Okay. But, ma'am, Asek Dunaga, OTOP will remain to be a flagship program of the DTI. Tama po ba yon? That's why we need to also strengthen and institutionalize this through this bill. Ma'am, we cannot hear you, ma'am. Somebody help Asek Dunaga to unmute the microphone, please. Unmute the mic.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is the program of the DTI.
Yes, ma'am. We heard you. Okay. Okay, so this will continue to be a flagship DTI program which needs help of the national government through institutionalization and pinpointing of responsibilities, especially with DTI and the local government units, which will be accomplished through this bill. Unless si Yusek Tolentino will say something. Dominic? Ano ba si Dominic? Asek? Pero-nomote na kita. Sorry, unmute, sir.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Senator Coco. Pleasant good morning to everybody. Happy Valentine's every day to all of you. OTOP is one of the best program of DTI, and I support Asek Dunaga to institutionalize. We have created a lot of job opportunities, rebuild the local economy through MSMEs. Mr. Senator, it is our honor to promote and push the OTOP program as an institutionalized program for the country. Thank you very much, Mr. Senator.
Okay, any other comments on the bill of Senator Revilla? Kung wala na, I will form the TWG and encourage the DTI to actively participate so that we can come up with the best possible version of a bill institutionalizing the OTOP. We have CDA. Meron bang comment ng CDA rito sa OTOP bill?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Good morning po, Senator Coco.
Is this a Co-op Development Authority?
Yes po, Dr. Acid from CDA, sir.
Yes,
from
sir.
the Office of Yusek Ravenera. Actually, we would just like to manifest or we'd like to express our great support for the passage of this proposed bill ng aming mother agency, the Department of Trade and Industry, which is Senate Bill 1896 or the OTOP Philippines Act of 2020. So in CDA, we share in the aspiration of the declared policy of the proposed bill. And likewise, the OTOP program, which is spearheaded by DTI, which aims to boost local economic activity and boost the national economic growth. As we believe in CDA that this would also be great, or this would also greatly contribute in promoting the further viability and growth of cooperatives as instruments of equity, social justice, and economic development, especially or particularly po doon sa ating mga co-ops na nasa micro and small category, which is mostly nasa mga municipalities and LGU level po sila. So malaking tulong po itong pag-institutionalize itong OTOP program ng aming mother agency. But nevertheless, Mr. Chair, we will also submit our official position paper as well po sa Secretariat regarding dito sa Senate Bill 1896. Yun lamang po. Maraming salamat po.
Mr. Senator,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Who else?
Sir, Mr. Chairman, one manifestation. I just want to, yes, Senator Coco, I just want to have my voluntary participation as a TWG member, sir. As part of the Regional Operations Group, I would like to support ASEC Donaga and of course the DTI family. Thank you.
Break na siya. Okay. Thank you. And then, tignan nyo sabi mo kay Jingle, okay lang. Ito from the exchange, this is what I get as the benefits of the OTOP program of the DTI, which we need now, kasi because of the effects of the pandemic, COVID, number one. This will generate jobs. Tama? Tama. This, according to the CDA, this supports the growth of the co-ops. This supports our MSMEs existing, and of course those to be formed. This will develop our local products using materials available in the locality. Sabi ko nga dun sa inyong OTOP events doing what you do best even with less, di ba? And you're having fun doing it. And then this might develop industries. And then ang additional benefit, this will strengthen now the DTI LGU link or cooperation, especially in the light of the new ruling of the Mantanas na we will really have to get them more involved kasi meron pala silang ang computation, may additional 388 billion in ERA and in share of national taxes flowing from national to local. So i-involve natin sila with clearly delineated responsibilities, lines of responsibility, as well as areas of cooperation. So yun ang ating goal, ASEC Tolentino, ASEC Donaga.
Yes, sir. Copy, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am. ASEC Donaga, go ahead.
She's mute.
You're muted po. Please unmute your mic.
I share the One Town, One Product Philippines accomplishment for the year of 2020. The slide is ready. Okay. Circle. Good morning. Foremost, I would like to formally greet connection, creativity, and competitive advantage. Meanwhile, the Raise Your Flag, championed by MSME of Auto Ambassador Catriona Gray, aimed at increasing the exposure of auto product as well as propelling and elevating Filipino garment and textile through the Moda Initiative. The Laguna Province and Zamboanga region were the area that we featured last year. The Laguna Tour successfully assisted by 5 MSME and generated sale amounting of 4.18 million pesos, while the Zamboanga Tour successfully assisted 26 MSMEs and had help in generating sale amounting to 2.53 million pesos. This year, we target to feature another excited region, that is CAR. Part of OTOP Next Generation Product Development Initiative is the Intensified Product Development, Market Access, Promotion, and Capacity Building and Hosting, or IMAC. The product evaluation, innovation, costing, and culinary processes program is online educational program designed and enable food entrepreneurs to access their current product, check their processes, and expand their culinary knowledge. And the PEICCP program successfully assisted 271 MSMEs. The FDA LTO CPR capability training for the food sector, MSMEs provides MSME knowledge, skill, understanding, and the requirement for food safety regulation by FDA. It was attended by 130 participants. The OTO Next Gen also successfully conducted and or participated in a total of 394 product design development session, assisted 4,460 MSMEs, and developed 6,530 products. Presented before you are some before and after photo of the product development through assessment, consultation, and redesign of packaging and labeling. It also worthy to mention that for the first time last year, we initiated, with the assistance of our partner, the conduct of virtual trade fair and the view of the restriction that we imposed due to the pandemic. These are the Pasinaya Trade Fair last July 20 to 24, 2020, and the Otop Ascenso National Trade Expo last September 24 to 28, 2020. The Pasinaya successfully assisted 313 MSME from different regions and generated sale amounting to 30.7 million pesos. The Auto Ascenso National Trade Fair along the regional and provincial expo conducted throughout the year of 2020 successfully assisted 1,696 MSMEs and generated sales amounting of 90.8 million pesos. For the trade fair, and Auto MSME participated in 335 trade fairs, successfully assisted 5,550 MSMEs, and generated 335.7 million pesos sales. The OTOP Next Generation has 53 physical OTOP hubs and 2 virtual OTOP hubs, with a total of 55 hubs established currently. For 2020, the hub generated 48.7 million sales and assisted 3,964 MSMEs. Out of 53 physical OTOP hub, 47 are active and operational as December 31, 2020. In closing, allow me to share to you OTOP Next Generation overall 2020 accomplishment. The OTOP Next Gen had successfully assisted a total of 14,378 MSMEs, developed 6,813 products, and generated 1.8 billion in sales from different sources. With the national health emergency that we face because of the COVID-19 pandemic, 2020 was defining moment in the business sectors. Our MSMEs were forced to reinvent business strategy, adapt a new and better normal working arrangement, and all together reboot plan, processes, and layout of their businesses. Our MSMEs never did, but instead fuel and refuel their energy toward their success, which in turn also resulting to the success and the gradual recovery of the Philippines economy. With the resilience of our MSMEs, it is also undying commitment to continue to hustle and go into a great length to come up with solution and intensify and collaboration in institutionalizing programs to capacitate, equip our MSMEs, and afford them opportunity to carry on and strive in this new normal and future of post-COVID-19. Thank you for your time and have a good day.
Thank you, ma'am. So thank you for that presentation and congratulations. 1.8 billion in sales generated. So that is how important OTOP is as a program of the DTI. That's why we will give it full support. And if there are no more comments on the topic, we will now form the TWG so that we can finalize the version of the bill we will submit to the plenary. Okay, so what jingle?
FDA would like to make a
FDA on OTOP, sige,
Yes, sir.
FDA.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to everybody. So I would just like to read the position of the Department of Health. Particularly, this involves the comments or the inclusion of the Food and Drug Administration on the institutionalizing of the OTOP. So the Department of Health supports the Senate Bill 1896, which seeks to institutionalize the one product program to stimulate economic activities of local small and medium enterprises, SMEs, across the country. So according to the World Bank, SMEs have a crucial role in developing countries as it contributes to creation of jobs and development of the global economy. This role can be maximized when supported by the national government and other stakeholders. As such, the department interposes no objection to the passage of the proposed measure into law. However, it must be understood that all food and drug products pursuant to the Republic Act number 9711, the Food and Drug Administration Act of 2009, should undergo FDA's proper regulatory monitoring and standards compliance. So this is to ensure that the products are safe and are not a threat to the health of Filipinos. Further, the department provides the following recommendations for consideration. So on the objectives, I would just like to recommend to insert the phrase and securing licenses, product registration, and other market authorization. And on the section 10, still on the capacity building, also to include the phrase securing licensing, product registration, and other marketing authorization. And we also propose to include the Food and Drug Administration as one of the members of the auto management committee, as the most commonly declared auto products are processed food products and also cosmetic products, including perfumes, laundry, and soap products. And also involve FDA in the auto programs at the local government unit LG levels to ensure full compliance with the provisions of the FDA Act of 2009 and the Republic Act 10611, the Food Safety Act of 2013. Yun lang po, sir. So, nabanggit naman po kanina ni ASEC na there are seminar training on the FDA licensing and registration. So, yun po. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you to the FDA. So, considered na yan. Noted and to be considered during the TWG. So, if there are no more comments, the committee secretary will form the TWG so that we can refer this to plenary at the soonest possible time. Okay, thank you to all our participants, ma'am. Thank you to the DTI FDA. Ngayon, ganito, we are running out of time because I intend to adjourn or suspend the hearing by 1 p.m. So, siguro we have sufficient time to tackle BPA and the trans fat-free bills. But to those who joined us for the SB 632, the Warehouse Receipts Act, and SBN 1798, the Heavy Equipment Registration Act, we will not tackle these two bills anymore this afternoon. We will just schedule again another hearing for these two bills. So for those who attended this the hearing today for these two bills, thank you very much for joining us, and you have the chair's permission to already leave us as we will no longer tackle the two bills. So let's move on now to the BPA in Child Care Articles Prohibition Act, Senate Bill number 1320. This bill is self-explanatory.
Yes.
So,
Regulation of BPA, sir.
DOH, FDA yata rin is involved here, no? FDA? Who's raising her hand? Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
From FDA, sir, DOH and FDA, may I be allowed to read our position paper?
Director
Ano po?
Rivera,
Apo.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for allowing us to read our position paper on Senate Bill number 1320, which is an act prohibiting the use of BPA in baby food packaging and containers and other childcare articles, providing for its replacement with safer alternatives. So the Department of Health supports the intent of Senate Bill number 1320, which seeks to prohibit the use of bisphenol A in any food and food packaging and containers for infants. So the DOH interposes no objection to the passage of the bill measure into law because it is aligned with the FDA Administrative Circular number 2019-004, which bans BPA in child care articles, specifically feeding bottles and sippy cups. Section 4 of the said issuance states that the manufacture, importation, and distribution of infant feeding bottles and sippy cups containing BPA shall not be allowed. Further, the department provides the following recommendations to the chair and the committee for consideration to the measure. So include BPA analogs, per and polyfluoroalkyl compounds, and other chemicals of concern, which are also commonly found in paper and plastic food packaging, and is linked to developmental and behavioral outcomes in children with early life exposure support research activities regarding the matter, mandate the labeling of and disclosure of these chemicals used in childcare articles. And we also wish to inform that a more comprehensive issuance is currently under review by the FDA Center for Food Regulation and Research with regards to food contact materials, which shall include not only BPA but also other chemicals of concern. We laud the efforts of the Senate for taking a proactive stance on this issue to ensure that actions are initiated, developed, and sustained in order to promote children's health. That is all, Your Honor. Thank you very much for allowing us to read our position paper.
So the suggestion is to expand the coverage of subject matter, with the same objective. Gawin natin. Tama po 'yun,
Yes,
Thank
Sir
you for
Honor.
that, Rivera. Any other comments from consumer group? DTI? Hello? Nawala yata ako. Hello, am I still online?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Meron po.
we can hear you po.
Aba. Yes po.
Am I online? Am I online?
Yes,
Comsec?
yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so FDA is the authority here, on what is on what is dangerous substance, especially for babies and children. Okay, any other comments? Wala na? Okay, so do we need a technical work? Yes, because of the suggestion of the FDA. Oo nga pala, we will call for a technical working group to accommodate the points raised by the FDA. Sayang naman if we limit daw ourselves to just the BPA. Meron daw, tama ba yung term? BPA analogs, ma'am? Is that the term that you use? Sige. We will include all of this. Tapos all of this, as far as science can determine what are those chemicals still in the market, still found in products accessible to children and babies here in the Philippines, which have been found by science to be detrimental to their health, even to not only short-term period, but even in the long term. And let's try to cover them in the said bill. Para one action na lang, one action. Okay, so
Thank you,
the
sir.
the COMSEC will now call for a TWG on this on the BPA bill of Senator Binay. Please inform the good senator of what we intend to do.
Yes po.
Okay, we move on. Our last topic for today. Two Senate bills, 1916 and 1954 on Trans Fat Free Philippines Act. Okay, who did we invite? COMSEC?
Sir, madami po, sir. From the DOH?
Let's start with the DOH muna to tell us the science behind this.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Sino to, sir?
This is Roddy Carza of the DOH Health Promotion Bureau.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Carza.
Thank you, sir. The DOH supports Senate Bill numbers 1916 and 1954, which seek to prohibit the manufacturing, importation, distribution, and sale of partially hydrogenated oils and fats with trans fatty acid content, or TFA, which has no known health benefits. These measures seek to promote healthy food choices and lifestyle among Filipinos to protect them from the adverse impact of TFA. In a report by the WHO in 2019, non-communicable diseases such as cardiovascular diseases are one of the world's leading causes of deaths. And in the Philippines, NCDs account for 68% of all deaths, and the probability of dying between ages 30 and 70 years from one of the four main NCDs is 29%. The increasing risk of heart attack and deaths from heart diseases is also associated with the increased consumption of trans fat. However, these diseases and deaths can be prevented and reduced through various interventions, including limiting trans fat consumption to less than 1% of our total energy intake, which translates to less than 2.2 grams per day for a 2,000-calorie diet. In view of this, the DOH supports the passage of these measures into law, and the elimination of industrially produced TFA from food will help prevent the risk of coronary heart disease, which in turn would help reduce the cases of premature deaths caused by NCDs. The DOH would also like to recommend for consideration of the committee removing the phrase excluding TFA content from ruminant sources of Section 10, prohibition on the manufacture, importation, distribution, and sale of PHOs and oils and fats with high TFA content, item C. TFA, whether from artificial or ruminant sources, should not exceed by 2 grams per 100 grams of fats and oil. That's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Carza. Anybody else? Meron ba contrary opinion? Sige. Mr. Madrigal, yeah.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I'm the administrator of the Philippine Coconut Authority. If I may be able to read our position paper. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. First of all, we would like to express our full support to our legislators for its effort to regulate a healthy food chain supply, especially at this time of pandemic. And as such, the authority deems it timely that with this proposed legislation, coconut oil as a healthy alternative plant-based oil be emphasized and be given due recognition. And with this, we would like to manifest our serious concern since there seems to be an erroneous enumeration of healthy alternative oils when the bill states that the same consists of those with low levels of saturated fatty acids. This provision is found in Senate Bills 1916 and 1954. Based on studies made by our lead scientist, Dr. Toby Dairit, I think he is also logged in. We respectfully recommend for our honorable legislators to consider removing the phrase with low levels of saturated fatty acids, or the presence of saturated fatty acids does not equate to the presence of trans fatty acids, since these are two distinct types of fatty acids. Let it be emphasized that naturally occurring trans fats are perfectly safe and healthy for humans. And in contrast, industrially produced trans fats through hydrogenation and high heating are the ones which are toxic. The more saturated the oil is, the more heat stable it is, and the longer its shelf life. And actually, we have made a position also and manifested this to the Food and Agriculture Organization through the Department of Agriculture, where during the meeting of the Committee on Commodity Problems, and through the International Coconut Committee Secretariat, where we have placed our concern for them to ensure balanced and evidence-based health advisories and reporting to ensure that the public of healthy alternatives and for them to know the risks as well as the benefits of consuming products with known SFA. Coconut oil being high in saturated fatty acids, which is 64%, of which is medium chain fatty acids, makes it a highly stable oil to last a long period of time and does not have to go through the process of hydrogenation. Oils which are polyunsaturated must undergo the process of hydrogenation to make it saturated for longer shelf life, which now produces the TFA. Coconut oil is also referred to as the lauric oil since it contains approximately 40 to 50% of lauric acid of the overall fatty acid composition. This significant presence of lauric acid plays an important role in making coconut oil chemically unique among other oils. Numerous research studies have demonstrated the beneficial effects of coconut oil, breaking out all the misconceptions that it held for ages due to being a source of saturated fatty acids. Health advisors claim that this sensational food has remarkable functional properties such as hydrocholesterolemic, anti-obesity, anti-hepatosteatotic, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, including HIV preventive activity and cardioprotective effect. If you remember, sir, a clinical study was jointly conducted by DOST, PCA, and DOH, and this has shown the benefits of virgin coconut oil in boosting immune system for patients positive for COVID-19 are exhibiting mild to moderate symptoms. And this only proves that coconut oil has a wide array of potentials other than its present market usage, which should encourage further support from future legislation. We also recommend, sir, that if it is possible for PCA to be part of the interagency task force, being the part of the National Codex Organization of DA Subcommittee on Fats and Oils. That's all, sir, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Sir,
Thank you, Administrator Madrigal. Yes, who's next?
from the Department of Agriculture po, Undersecretary Abilin Lavinia.
Sige. DA Yusek, yes.
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. We sincerely commend the authorship of Senator Binay and Pangilinan of the Senate Bill 1954, an act to protect the Filipino people from the harmful effects of trans fatty acids and other purposes. We value your effort to provide an environment of a healthier food chain supply by prohibiting the manufacture and importation, distribution, and sale of the partially hydrogenated oils and oils, fats, and processed and prepackaged food with high trans fat acid content. This move is timely with the prevalence of the chronic illnesses aggravated by and or attributed to the consumption of the TFA. We view this proposed legislation as an opportunity to formulate a proper definition of a healthy alternative oil that would give due consideration to our coconut oil. The CNO is a healthy alternative, plant-based oil considering its unique characteristic attributed by its medium chain triglyceride content proven by the studies as beneficial to health and recent of which is the pioneering Philippine studies on the use of coconut oil against COVID-19, which was lengthily discussed by DAPCA Director Madrigal. Particularly, we would like to comment on the following. On the definition of healthy alternative oil, fats, and oil seeds. We respectfully recommend removing the phrase with low levels of saturated fatty acids in the definition of healthy alternative oils, fats, and oil seeds in the bill. Since the definition in the bill says healthy alternative oil, fats, and oil seeds, says oil, fats, and oil seeds rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids or monosaccharides, fatty acids, and with low levels of saturated fatty acids. As per our experts, the presence of the saturated fatty acids does not equate to the presence of the trans fatty acids, which since these are two distinct types of fatty acids. Furthermore, this does not recognize the beneficial properties of the medium chain fatty acids, which is unique to the coconut oil. As such, there is a need to define saturated fatty acids, in particular, its sub-classification into short chain, medium chain, and long chain fatty acids in order to show that there is a highly beneficial medium chain fatty acids or the MCFAs, which are non-fattening and antimicrobial. As per our experts, we recommend the following definition. Healthy alternative oils, fats, and oilseeds, oils and fats rich in saturated saturated and medium chain fatty acids are stable to heat, do not create significant amount of free radicals during heating, and contain the least toxins and unnecessary toxic chemicals such as the trans fat. In Section 5, on the Interagency TFA Task Force, we recommend that the Philippine Coconut Authority under the Department of Agriculture be an additional member of the Interagency Task Force. On the oilseed crop diversification, we fully support Section 8, which reads, Section 8, oilseeds crop diversification, the Department of Agriculture shall implement an oilseeds crop diversification program and conduct continuing research and development to support the production of healthy alternative oilseeds in coordination with the Department of Science and Technology. Our department would be pleased to be part of any technical discussion that your committee will hold in the formulation of the bill. We would also be pleased to submit a formal position paper as a Department of Agriculture. Thank you again for your continuing support. That's all, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Oh, who's next? Who's next? We have Imagine Law.
Sir?
Imagine
Sir?
Law. Let's start with Imagine
Senator.
Go ahead, Imagine Law. Doc, let's give way to Imagine Law first. Imagine Law Project Manager, Attorney Maan Santo Domingo. Okay, go.
Yes. Thank you very much, Senator Pimentel. Again, we'd like to congratulate Senator Binay as well as Senator Pangilinan for sponsoring this bill. It's going to save a lot of lives from cardiovascular diseases, which is really the point why all of us are here today. We'd also like to congratulate the Trade Committee for acting swiftly on this matter. I just wanted to respond regarding the definition of healthy oils, and I wanted to raise that this definition was actually introduced by the World Health Organization headquarters office. It was part of the Replace Action Package to determine what type of, or to characterize the type of healthy oil that should be used or promoted as a replacement oil. Nonetheless, as I see the bill provisions show, it gives the onus or the burden to the government, to the Department of Health, the Department of Science and Technology, as well as to the Department of Agriculture to conduct research, look into all the evidence that's available into what kind of oil should be appropriate. And I think really it's going to be ultimately the decision of our government on what type of healthy oil should be used. So as I would acknowledge all of these concerns about this specific provision, if I may suggest, if it's going to be the most contentious, if at all, there is time, I would think, to determine what the type of healthy oil should be. So this provision can actually be removed from the draft bill and taken up later on during the implementing rules and regulations, during the crafting of the implementing rules and regulations. That's it on my end, Chairperson Pimenta. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Panyera. But to defer some decisions, and then trust that the decision will be made by the agencies in the IRR might even complicate matters. So siguro the law should resolve the contentious issues, no? Which we will identify in due time. Kasi ngayon medyo tinitignan ko pa what is the issue. Is it SFA versus TFA, mga ganon. But maybe Dr. Dairit can help us. Sige, frame and understand the issues involved. Yes, sir.
Yes, good afternoon, Senator Pimentel. First of all, I'd like to go back. I mean, mention pinanggit na rin yung WHO Replace program. In fact, if you go through it, that Replace program is really just promoting polyunsaturated fats and tailored fats. if you look, I went through the provisions of that, and they really target coconut oil. Now, what are they promoting? They are promoting polyunsaturated fats and tailored fats, because these are basically industrially synthetic fats. Now, the campaign against coconut oil is a long-standing campaign. It's been going on since the 1980s. In fact, if you visit the website of the American Soybean Association, in 1987, they launched an anti-coconut campaign, the Tropical Fats War, wherein they explicitly said that it was really just to get market share. Now, so this is a long-standing economic campaign, and they see, in fact, coconut oil is a unique oil. We used to export coconut oil to the US, and then when it got stopped during World War II, that's when they developed hydrogenation of polyunsaturated fats. So there's a anti-coconut campaign in the US. Now, maybe just to, since this is not supposed to be a long lecture, maybe I'll just mention that before in the Western Pacific, in fact, there's a WHO book in 2003, where it's known that in the Western Pacific, they used to take mostly coconut oil. And this is before the Western fats came in, because all they have are coconut trees. And so, in fact, they eat pigs, chicken, and coconut oil. And their obesity and heart disease was low, and it increased when they started importing the Western oils. So what will happen is, if they and I think their plan is to kick out coconut oil, then we're just going to be consuming polyunsaturated fats and Western oils, and I believe this is going to be bad for our health in the end. But there's a longer technical story to this. So I just basically support the position of the Department of Agriculture and the PCA to remove the prohibition against saturated fats, because in fact, when they hydrogenated polyunsaturated fats, they really wanted to make saturated fats, but they don't want coconut oil. So that's all I'd like to share for now. So thank you, Senator Pimentel.
Dr. Dairit, are you connected with the government?
No, I'm with Ateneo de Manila University, and I'm also an academician of the National Academy of Science and Technology. I'm a chemist by training, by the way.
No. What is that NAST? Does that make you a government employee or hindi?
Hindi. It's a academy. So we are nominated. The NAST was founded by presidential decree in, I think, 1977.
Yes.
So the members are not necessarily government employees, although there are many scientists from government there, but also from the private sector.
Are you consultant to the PCA?
Yes, I work very closely with the PCA.
Oh, kasi si director at si admin quoted you so
yes. In fact, we have been in touch.
You may have done work for them.
Yes.
Okay. So how about this? We have the Society of Nutritionists and Dietitians. So what any inputs on the issue? Sino sa inyo?
Thank you very much, Senator Pimentel and members of the committee. Yes po, this will be very quick lang po, no. PSND would like to show its support na lang in the immediate passing of Trans Fat Elimination Bill, as it recognizes how trans fatty acids can strongly increase the risk of non-communicable diseases, more importantly, cardiovascular disease in the Filipinos. Senator Coco, in fact, in the Philippines, 1 out of 2 already is hypercholesterolemic, and we see that TFA consumption is tightly correlated with high cholesterol, which is plaguing our nation. The current statistic is 1 out of 2. Currently, our diets are very vulnerable to be plagued with trans fat sources. So if you look at the commonly consumed foods in our country, these are infant formula, milk, coffee creamers, biscuits, baked products, beverages. All of them can be sources of TFAs. So with that increased amount of magnitude of intake, there should this can correlate to an increase also in the risk of acquiring heart diseases. We mentioned kanina that looking for terrorists in marking up medicines. in my opinion, this is a terrorist hiding in our grocery items, no, because this can kill so much by increasing your risk of acquiring heart disease. With regards to its effectivity, trans fat elimination is very successful in reducing risks in mortality rates or secondary to cardiovascular diseases, which Imagine Law and PSND can share with you. And with this in mind, we also want to reiterate the fact that with regards to defining what is TFA, PSND stands by the definition sets by the World Health Organizations, although it acknowledges that in the Philippines, coconut oils are sources of energy in our diets. No? With this in mind, PSND supports the trans fat elimination bills, namely 1916 and 1954. Thank you very much, Senator Coco Pimentel.
Thank you, Jake, and to your organization. Anybody else?
Good afternoon, sir. Mr.
Yes.
Yes, I am a colleague of Jake from the Philippine Society of Nutritionists
Atienza?
Dietitian.
Yes.
Yes, Paul. Let me just add an important point. No, that we're not just addressing CVD here or the leading cause of death. We are actually targeting all non-communicable diseases because all non-communicable diseases boil down to inflammation as the root cause. And trans fats as artificial fats, industrially manufactured fats are very inflammatory, inducing mga negative reactions in the body that are not seen by the naked eye until such a time na makita na lang natin ang clinical manifestations such as heart disease and cancer. So we believe that eliminating trans fat from our food supply is really very important in addressing these health consequences as well as the economic consequences that are related to these disease conditions. And we believe from PPSND that this is possible with the support especially of our policymakers. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, naputol lang yung audio feed mo sa akin, no? Yung non-communicable disease, the root cause is, ano sabi mo?
These all diseases boil down to inflammation, sir. Just like COVID, ang COVID right now is really a problem, And as we all know, these two conditions are called twin epidemics, sir. Sila ay magkakambal because kapag tiningnan at the cellular and molecular level, the root cause is inflammation that lead to reduced immunity. And as what we can see, those who are susceptible to COVID infection, as well as those who can develop the severe outcomes are the ones who have non-communicable diseases such as heart disease, So, such as heart diseases. Kaya addressing this, food, the elimination of this trans fat from our food supply chain will help address these two conditions, these twin epidemics, the infectious disease like COVID, which is now our problem. Also, yung mga non-communicable diseases such as heart diseases and cancer that are the leading causes of death in our country.
So, okay, the theory is trans fatty acids cause the inflammation?
Yes, sir.
Is that the theory?
Okay. Sir. Proven by science.
Okay. Proven by science. Nobody, I think, disputes that. Now, the issue is the bill identifies coconut oil as a trans fatty acid. Is that the issue, Dr. Derek? Can you guide me? What is the scientific issue here?
The scientific issue is really trans fats. Now they're throwing in saturated fat, which is really not part of the problem. Hindi ho problema ang saturated fat.
Okay. Trans fat acid, no problem.
Walang problema.
No problem. Okay. But the definition includes saturated fat.
Opo. Hindi ho pareho ang...
Hindi pareho, okay.
Hindi ho pareho yan.
SFA is not TFA.
Yes.
Okay. Where does coconut oil fall?
Coconut oil is a saturated fatty acid. It's a medium chain saturated fatty acid.
Okay, so where is it in the law that SFA is considered that TFA? Sandali
May nakabanggit ho dyan na dinadali ho ang saturated fat sa ano. Which is actually the same as the the Imagine Law colleague said. Kasama yan sa WHO recommendation, which is really not correct.
So naka-camouflage, nakatago because the announced objective of the law is to wage a battle against TFA.
Yes.
TFA trans fat pati sa policy statement trans fat So pagdating sa policy statement na ganyan, wala tayong problema.
Wala akong problema.
Ang gusto mo bang sabihin nakatago sa terms of the bill na pati si SFA ay tatamaan? Is that
Tama yun.
What part of the law, sir? What part of doctor or administrator? What part of the law?
Sir, there was an enumeration of healthy alternative oils.
Nasa definition of terms, letter E. Letter E.
Yes, sir, that specifies that only those healthy alternative oils are those with low level of saturated fatty acids. And coconut oil has a high level of saturated fatty acids, sir.
Okay. High level of saturated, paki-note na lang natin yun. Okay, so that means that because of the definition of the healthy alternative oil, in effect, the law is saying that coconut oil is not a healthy alternative.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But it is not hindi lang siya endorsed as a healthy alternative, but it is not being prohibited because it is not a TFA.
Yes, sir. It's not TFA, sir. But it says kasi, sir, pag binanggit kasi, sir, na ang healthy lamang ay those with low level of SFA, hindi po para pong sinasabi natin na hindi healthy yung may high level of SFA, which is coconut.
Okay. Yes, doctor, and then I'll get a contrary opinion ako meron man sige, Dr. Dairit. Unmute, sir. Unmute, doctor.
Ang ibig sabihin niyan, ang matitira na lang ho na oil na pwede natin i-consume ay polyunsaturated oils. And these are the soybean oil, corn oil, yung mga pati canola oil. It's really a measure of slipping under slipping in na wag mag-saturated fat. Although the objective of doing of hydrogenation in the very beginning was to make saturated fat. So in fact, these companies are, kumbaga, hypocritical. They wanted to make saturated fat in the beginning. Ang problema, hindi na magawa yung saturated fat, nasama yung trans fat. So ngayon, pinapagbawalan ng trans fat, ayaw nilang mag-survive ang coconut oil. So all they want is polyunsaturated fat, which is precisely what is in the World Health Organization replace program. And I'm afraid the World Health Organization has been taken over by American, the American oil industry. Sad to say.
Okay, Doc, ganito na lang. Ganito ko para maklaro. Para maklaro. Okay. I love studying science anyway. Coconut oil is not TFA.
Tama po.
Tama ba yun?
Tama
is that a factual statement?
Yes.
Naputol, is that a factual statement?
Yes,
Okay.
you are correct.
The bill is about removing industrially produced TFA from our food supply. So dapat hindi tamaan ang coconut oil kasi nasa sa subject matter
Tama po 'yon.
Okay. So tama po 'yon. Now ganito na lang gawin natin, PCA, DA, and Dr. Dairit, point out to us the danger in the language of the bills which you believe can now expand the implementation of the bill when it becomes law to affect a non-TFA like coconut oil. So, yun po alisin natin so that the bill will be, anong tawag mo dun? The bill will be loyal to its declared purpose na trans fatty acid ang kalaban natin. So, yun pong gawin natin. Unless the dietitians and the lawyer imagine law has a different, or scientists have different position na maybe somebody will tell us that coconut oil is TFA. Meron ba nagsasabi nun?
Wala po.
Is there anybody claiming that coconut oil is TFA? Wala. So,
Chairperson,
what is the
Pimentel,
issue?
if I may.
Sino to? Si Attorney Panyera.
Yes.
Sige.
Salamat po. Just to clarify, Senator Pimentel, I think you really got the gist of the issue. Well, I think clarified po tayong lahat that coconut oil is not trans fat. So it's not being prohibited by the bill. It's not being regulated by the bill. The definition of healthy oil as being low in saturated fatty acids should be read as together with the provision na kung saan kailangan yung healthy oil, and it's with regard to replacement. So, when replacing partially hydrogenated oils, which is yun yung trans fat natin, what is recommended under the World Health Organization Replace Action Package is a kind of oil that is richer in unsaturated fatty acids and lower in saturated fatty acids. So, hindi po niya pinagbabawal ang coconut oil. I don't think it will not in any way prohibit the use of coconut oil. It's only that in replacing oil with TFA, and it's not the promoted alternative. On this note also, I wanted to flag and I wanted to raise that PHOs or partially hydrogenated oils, yung atin pong trans fat oil, is a very small market. There's a market study that says that it's just 2.5% of total oil production and about 4.5% of total edible oil. Sobrang liit po niya. Kasi precisely it's on its way out already, and it's already parang the global movement to eliminate trans fat is already underway. So I don't think that by replacing it with how healthy oil is defined, it will really impact or affect or put down the coconut oil industry, and that is I think the least that the sponsors would like to do. Thank you.
Okay. That is what we guard against, di ba, Panyera? That is what we guard against. Yun lang naman.
Yes.
Senator Pimentel.
Yes.
Actually, you have three choices of types of oils. You have saturated fats. Ito yung mga non-trans fat, no? Saturated fats, monounsaturated fats, and polyunsaturated fats. As a matter of fact, what they want to do, and if you read the replace bill, they are promoting polyunsaturated fats and tailored fats. Now, these are the fats that are made by the Western oil industry. So it's actually a way of slipping in the market so that the market, they will just get the market. But pwede nyo tanong kay our Imagine Law, yun ang binabanggit dito sa WHO. It's really to discourage coconut oil, and what they are promoting are polyunsaturated fats and tailored fats, both of which are their products. So that is why I'm against any mention of any discouragement against coconut oil. Yun lang ho. I think we should just deal with the trans fats, and I think we can just debate the other parts of it. We should not discourage the consumption of coconut oil.
Tama yun, Doc. If it is a war against TFA, let it be a war against TFA. Hindi na siya promo for some other kind of fatty acid. Pero, Doc, in your professional opinion, polyunsaturated fatty acid and monounsaturated fatty acid, are these dangerous also?
No, but you have to take them in the right amount. In fact, if you look at the American diet, it's about 90% polyunsaturated. Kaya sila mataba. Sa totoo lang. So what we really need is a balanced diet. So, hindi ko sinasabi na masama sila. Pero kung if 90% of your fats are polyunsaturated, ay talagang magiging kasing taba ka ng mga Amerikano.
So, not per se as bad or dangerous as the TFA that we are fighting against.
Tama po
Okay.
yan. Tama.
I get it. Mr. Pañera, you're raising your hand. Ano pa? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to raise also that, and I think the Department of Agriculture is also here. During the deliberations, in the House Committee level, in the House Health Committee, the Department of Agriculture actually raised that we have a lot of available alternative healthy oils here. And they mentioned that we also have a rich soybean oil market and also a peanut oil market. I just wanted to, but it's not my place to say that, of course. And I'm turning over if Yusek Lavinia is also here present.
Okay, anybody else on the science? Yes, DOH, sino to, ma'am? Ma'am, identify yourself, the
Okay.
DOH.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rosemary Hernandez from the Department of Health. The Department of Health supports coconut oil as a healthy alternative oil for TFA. Although coconut oil is rich in saturated fatty acids, where 2/3 of the saturated fat in coconut oil consists of medium-chain triglycerides, which are easily absorbed and digested. They go directly to the portal circulation and to the liver, where they are immediately converted to energy for use by the body. In other words, most of the saturated fat in coconut oil is easily digestible and converted into quick energy. In effect, they are less likely to cause obesity because they are immediately used by the body and have no opportunity to be stored. They do not have a negative effect on cholesterol and help to protect against heart disease. Medium-chain fatty acids help to lower the risk of both atherosclerosis and heart disease. It is primarily due to MCFA in coconut oil that makes it so special and so beneficial. Thank you.
Yes, Administrator Madrigal.
Yes, sir. That's why, sir, I believe, sir, in the definition of healthy alternative oils, siguro, sir, maganda mai-expound lang na although coconut is high in SFA, andin naman po yung mga ibang sinasabing karakter niya. That distincts it, makes it distinct from other oils. Salamat po.
Yung mga nutritionists natin and dietitians, okay lang that there is no outright discouragement of the use of coconut oil. Okay ba yun? Even kayo, when you advise your patients, you do not outright prohibit them from consuming coconut oil in any manner?
Hello.
Sige po, Dr. Lizelle, kayo po muna.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Jake. As a nutrition scientist, sir, we actually support our coconut industry, no po, given the health benefits of coconut oil. Kasi totoo po yung na-mention ni ma'am that coconut oil is very rich in medium-chain triglycerides. It is easily utilized as source of energy. It has no cholesterol. And so we can suggest that coconut oil can be one of the best alternative. Okay po, dito sa saturated fat. So, hindi po natin sinasabi that coconut oil, although sinasabi po natin that coconut oil, even though it is classified as saturated fats in terms of its chemical structure, is not good for health. Actually, hindi po natin sinasabi yon. And actually, it's high time that we support to our, our very own coconut. Ayan. So, yun po yung stand namin dyan as a nutritionist. At sinasabi din po natin na ang dami naman pong alternative sa trans fat. Pero ang focus po natin is trans fat as a industrially produced. It is an artificial fat. It is inflammatory. It is dangerous to our health. It doubles our risk of developing mga inflammatory diseases such as heart diseases, cancer, it has to really be eliminated from our food supply. So, yun po.
Okay. So looks like the disagreement is more imagined than real eh. Mukhang okay naman eh. Any other inputs? Kung wala na, allow me to summarize it. Tignan natin the way forward. Any other inputs? Wala na. Okay, ganito. Attorney Rivera, no? You correct me if I'm wrong, ha? Okay. TFA is on its way out. Tama ba? Is that what I got from your inputs? Okay. Nevertheless, let us deliver the final blow against the TFA by enacting this bill into law. Okay. But let us remain focused on the main objective of the law, which is the fight against TFA. Hence, we eliminate any language in the law which can be used as a mandate or directive in discouraging the use of coconut oil or any other oil. Kasi nga, that's not the purpose. The law is there not to promote alternative oil, but to focus on TFA and get rid of this once and for all. Okay ba yung approach na yon with the PCA and Dr. Dairit and the rest of our dietitians? Okay. Kung okay yon, I will approach the authors. If okay sa kanila, then we proceed. So we will have now, we will have a bill. We will propose a bill which yun lang, one focus lang siya, the elimination of TFA in our food supply and other products. Okay, consumed by the Filipino people. Okay, if there is no objection to that approach, I will explain to the two authors. Ano lang naman yun, sa definition of terms lang po yun nakalagay as a healthy alternative that is not essential to the law. Because, di ba, the law is to combat TFA. Okay, so, if there is no other matter, so, ganito, COMSEC and my staff, we explain first to the authors. If they are agreeable, then let's call for the TWG. Okay. If they are not agreeable, then we call again for another hearing, and then let's hear the science again. Masaya naman eh. I enjoyed listening to the science behind it. Okay, so wala na po, wala na ba? In case of a dispute in the science, who will resolve it? Dr. Dairit, should it be the DA, the DOH, or the DOST?
Well, I think we should just listen to the presentations and we can judge the yeah, we bring up the science.
Sige, just in case. Sa ngayon naman wala. Sa wala ngayon we have clarified na there is really no dispute on the science. It is the TFA that we are against. All of us are against. Okay. Okay, so with that, thank you very much for your participation. That is our future steps. So I think we have tackled enough matters today. So the chair would like to thank all of those who participated in all of the 6 topics that we tackled during this hearing. So I now suspend our hearing because we left two subject matters unfinished. So we suspend our hearing and we thank everybody. Salamat po muli. Thank you. Good afternoon, good day, everybody.
Maraming salamat din po.
Okay, thank you. Be safe, everyone.
Thank you.